little junkies. This is John Verfello, and we got Neil Magnuson beside us. And Jeremiah Vendemir today happens to be in a car with Jody Emery, and they're driving around. Why?
Should we call him?
Should we call him?
Okay.
Well, they're driving around because they're really working on this Cannabis Culture Lounge new location, guys. And this new location at 512 Beatty Street in Vancouver is really going to be that new location that everybody's going to be going to. So, of course, we want to get on here today and talk a little bit more about what's happening in Vancouver. And the most important part here right now, guys, is we got big bags of weed, of course.
Those are pre-rolled joints.
Tomorrow,
that's for the march.
For the Global Marijuana March. And this will be happening tomorrow, and we'll be leaving from the Vancouver Art Gallery. And from the Art Gallery, we're going to be marching. Do you know the exact march direction of this whole thing?
We believe we're going over the Cannabis Street Bridge. That's
Cannabis
the most direct route.
Most direct route. So we're going to march over from the Art Gallery.
From the Art Gallery.
Straight down Georgia.
Jeremiah from Cannabis Culture and Pot.
We're trying to get Jeremiah online right now.
We'll get him a little later then.
We will.
We'll have a guest on the show.
Oh, I need butane. Thank you.
So yeah, there's things are going on in Vancouver, and this year there is some debate about where it's going. There's been an attempt by another group to sort of have the march. Interesting how that's going to shake down. And they want to go over the Granville Street Bridge because they think that'll get more attention. But it's considerably longer route. There's a lot of people that are disabled and have trouble making the run. We're not going to have the fire truck this year. And that's too bad because we had a lot of people that were disabled that could ride on the fire truck. So we're appealing to people with pickup trucks to bring their trucks and even vans, especially if you have two side opening doors and things like that. And we can dress it up a bit with some signs when you get there if you don't have your own. And so we're going to need some transportation for people. Now, I know Mark Boyer also had another very interesting idea, and that is that there's a SkyTrain station really close to the Art Gallery there, and it goes directly to Cambie Street. It's 3 stops. So maybe if a large group of people wanted to protest bad laws and take the SkyTrain and meet the other ones that take the bridge, it could be interesting. We're going to decide some of these things tomorrow. And we're just going to meet at the Art Gallery and have a discussion about things and see which direction we go. So yeah, assembling there around noon and then leaving there around 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. That's what's going on.
Well, that's going to be awesome.
It should be awesome.
It's going to be really good. You know what? Yeah. We want to get everybody there as much as support what's happening here in Vancouver.
It's important.
It's smart marijuana, cannabis, the plant.
Well,
John,
so it's what's going on in Vancouver that makes this particular march important.
Extremely important.
And this is the year of legalization, of course, from the federal government.
2017, 2016 is where we're looking at what's happening.
Wow, man. So there's that to talk about as well. But with what the city's doing in trying to shut down the majority of the cannabis, like the vast majority, 90% of the cannabis dispensaries, is extremely wrong and hurtful and wrong-headed with no justification whatsoever. So we want to talk a little bit about that and how there is no way to really hold the politicians' feet to the fire other than the next time they're up for election. There's no mechanism where when they're way overbroad and arbitrary in their regulations and harming people in the process that we can really do much of anything about it other than appeal through the media and see how that works. But they really have way too much power as civil servants in the cities.
Well, it's interesting in how everything is actually working out. We've had I think I went to 2 clubs today to do some drop-off, of course, with some medtainers, and they were closed.
Yeah, a lot of them have closed.
So a lot of them have closed down.
Yeah. Not the majority by any sense, but
I've seen a few that are open
20%.
They haven't got a fine yet. I said, well, did you get one?
Well, lots have.
Lots have been getting $250 fines, and that's going to slowly start adding up. Just like I know Don from Weeds, and I know.
Yeah, he's got I think 6 of his 9 stores got ticketed, and it's ongoing. So I mean, we really don't know how many. That one last report I thought was 44 stores had.
They're on Kingsway, and in Amateur, they already got fined, and they're trying to stand their ground. I know they got them in court, and
then some people are saying they're going to pay those fines, and that's part of the operating costs. And others are saying they're not going to pay the fines because they're arbitrary and there's no harm being done. No fine should be imposed, and they're willing to take it to the courts. Mark Boyer from the Marijuana Party of Canada says that all of the stores that are operating under his flag of being an EDA, an electoral district agent office, have not gotten any tickets for whatever that's worth. Other stores that are having appearances yet before the Board of Variance They haven't got tickets as well yet, so there may be some selectivity going on with the city and with respect to how these inspectors are handing out tickets and what places they're going to. Speaking of the Board of Variance, a very interesting night there, night before last, where they had hearings for the dispensary and a few other dispensaries. And it was a very long and involved process. A lot of impassioned speakers spoke on behalf of the dispensary. They've got over 7,000 members. And in the end, they won. Even though I didn't think it was going that way, I had it already put into my text box to send to Jeremiah saying they're going to deny it. But they didn't deny it in the end.
I was here when that happened. You sent the message over.
Yeah, and I had, before I sent, we won, I had in there, they denied it, and it's all based on distance. And that really is all they're looking at this point. They really say they have no ability to even discuss or consider any of the other factors with regards to the other regulations that are there that are problematic. They're simply looking at distance and how you measure distance, and it's all about from schools more than from each other.
I know some people are winning because we had the BCCS, British Columbia Compassion Club Society, where there's a school directly across the street.
Yep.
They won their Board of Variance, so
Yep.
that was like really key important. I think that was one of the big ones that needed to be won, and then we'll see where things will go from there. Because I mean, for me, that's really the true passion and where it all started from. Was from Hilly and from the people that really dedicated their lives in the beginning to give cannabis to these weren't just sick patients, these were terminal patients.
Yeah.
And that's what was a real big focus.
These were the real sick and dying.
These were the real sick and dying. Because I remember when I went there in 2005 and I got my license, I had just fallen 28 feet on the concrete, and I was in so much pain. And everybody there was in the same type of field. They were disabled, like to a catastrophic type injuries, or they were terminal.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's great to see that now we've really realized and opened up our horizons on what cannabis works as a medical for even for headaches and stuff like that, and when people got just muscle spasms and stuff like that. So we've really taken it to the next step on why we have so many clubs in Vancouver. But I mean, really right now,
But City Council is still in the dark ages.
They're still in the dark ages.
Yeah.
Now we're looking at Edmonton, we're looking at Regina, going right across Canada. We're starting to see them in Halifax. I mean, Toronto's completely booming. I mean, I think everybody in Vancouver has managed to make their way over to Toronto. And
Victoria is doing very well, and they're also having hearings right now, and they have decided that edibles are going to be part of what dispensaries are allowed to deal with over there, and that they're trying to avoid the mistakes that Vancouver's making. They're not even made yet. Nobody's got a license yet. So
haven't really been made. I think there was never a mistake. Is what happened in Vancouver is the allowed of the amount of clubs to open and stuff like that, and how things worked out. So.
Well, but it's the mistake is that they're not listening to the activists. They're not, consulting with the community, and the regulations that they've drawn up are completely archaic and from some other dimension.
I'm gonna call Jeremy.
Like 1930s reefer madness is still going on at City Hall in Vancouver. Rather than embracing what the activists have been able to achieve and letting us help them be progressive and lead the way with this issue, they're going a completely different route, which either because they're completely ignorant and they are in the 30s.
We got Jer.
We got Jeremiah on the show.
Jer, we figured we would. We're sitting here today at the Cannabis Culture Studio at the Pot TV studio. We want to talk more about the Global Marijuana March and, of course, your new location and what you guys were doing. So,
yeah.
What not better way to do a show? So we decided
we're doing a show.
A nice little show here. We got like 50 people watching, and
bunch of joints on the table.
We wanted you to kind of get on here. I'm gonna have you as a guest today.
I know. I heard about the secret show. It's not so secret, I guess. But
Oh, really?
I love it.
Who blabbed?
Did someone blab?
Somebody in the studio.
There was a
There's
leak.
I'm at IKEA
Oh, man.
right now.
You're-
Actually, at IKEA, we're getting jars right now for the dispensary.
I know.
That's a very important job for you to be doing.
At the new dispensary location at 512 Beatty Street in Vancouver, the Cannabis
Yes.
Culture. So, I mean, of course, I was already made mention how you and Jody have been, frantically running around today, and I picked you up, and I figured, you know what? We had to talk more about the Global Marijuana March for tomorrow. Of course, the lounge that you guys are working up.
Got to
What's
promote the
happening.
march, Jer.
Have to promote the march. We got big bags of joints here. We wanted to be on here and talk with everybody. We got some people
Hell
here in the
yeah.
studio. Oh, bring the bucket over here. Just bring it on up here. We got
Jody, we're live on Pod TV right now. Say hi.
Oh, hi from IKEA and hi.
Hi, Jody.
Hi, Jody.
Hi in IKEA.
Hey.
We just got, look at all these seeds that just showed up.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
We're getting
incredible.
75% hot dogs.
Overgrow Canvas right now. Overgrow Canada.
You,
So, guys, you know what? It's great to have you. We're going to let you continue doing what you guys do best.
You're
which is
looking good, I
fighting for
must
this
say.
plan. Enjoy buying jars to
Yeah.
put all that fresh weed in. We'll make sure we get you some
Hey, I got a question for him. There was some bags of weed on your desk.
The bags
Yes,
of
the
weed on your
Global
desk. Can we
Marijuana
smoke
March.
them? Huh?
The Global Marijuana March.
What about
It's
it?
huge.
Tomorrow, noon, at the Art Gallery. We're marching from the Art Gallery all the way to City Hall.
Yeah, man.
We're gonna
Cambie
we're going
Street?
over the Cambie Street Bridge is the one we're taking. I'm pretty sure. So
Got more.
There was some dispute over where the route should go, but I think we've agreed that it should be over Cambie Bridge. So
Yeah. Well, and you know, Mark Boyer says some people could take the SkyTrain.
no, that's not happening. This crazy SkyTrain.
I was thinking about having some boats leave the harbor, and we can like bring them into like English Bay, and we can court around like the Science World, and then we can walk up that way and go another direction.
So what?
No, the whole point is unity, so we do it all together.
Unity.
I agree.
Is the most important part. We have to do
It
this
is.
together.
I agree.
That's
If
what
we
we're
all
looking
split
at.
up- If we all split up
Freedom
and take a different
together.
street, then it's not much of a march.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then we look like a
It's
bunch
just a
of
bunch of people
yo-yos.
walking.
But
So what about the weed in the bags by your desk with names on them? Can we smoke that? And what's that about?
I can't. I heard Neil is saying something, but I can't understand
Oh.
what it was.
Well, what about?
I'm ordering a hot dog right now.
Oh yeah. I
75%
did.
hot dog.
Okay, hey Jeff. There's some bags of weed on your desk there that had names on them. Can we smoke that? And what's that all about?
I don't think you should touch those.
Oh. Okay.
No, I'm good on that.
All right. I'll smoke my own weed.
okay,
I'll,
apparently
we'll
we
have a
can.
pop though.
Okay, Jer, you know what? Share the show. We didn't even give it a name. We just called it Pot TV Live today. That's the way it came out. So you can throw
Yeah.
it on your platform.
guys
We're going to
ran
talk
on the
here.
live
We're going to
thing?
do a 420 little toke down. We might grab some guests. We're going to go and grab some random people off the street and just interview
love
them about weed. Say, do you know anything about cannabis? No? Well, then shit. Then we're going to have a lot of fun. And if they do, we're going to get them high. That's it. We're going to have some fun here today. So, as
Yeah.
always, puff and pass, my friend. Have a great, great time buying some jars to put weed in. Give Jody a big hat. Well, let me say bye to Jody, too. She can say bye to everybody.
I'm glad you guys are on that because that's important.
Bye, guys.
Bye guys. Have a good
Bye.
show.
Bye.
All right.
Okay.
Now,
Apparently,
we
the
have
secret show
chatters?
was leaked.
is there chat or what?
We have chat.
Okay.
Okay, chatters. Excellent, my prophet bro. Smoking.
Your job is to
Chillin'
find
should
out
be properly cured.
Who leaked it to Jerry?
So,
We were
you know
stealing
what?
his show.
Here we are, John. John Farrell in Vancouver is looking to get his pack of seeds. John, come on down to the Pot TV studio right now.
Yeah.
And sorry, Neil, I just punched you in the face. I will give you this bag of seeds right here. You can have this one, or you can have that one. You can have this one. Hey, you know what? Here, just have.
That's our freedom dream.
I'm just gonna.
Cindy, do you want to come
Cindy?
and talk to us?
Cindy, well, you know what?
Do we don't have a guest cam.
We're gonna have it. We got
So you're gonna have to
413.
snuggle on in here with us.
You can just slide right in here.
So Cindy's been on tour with Dana Larson, although
Yes,
he's
Cindy,
now on
tell
tour
us-
somewhere
tell
else.
us,
But
you know what, Cindy, you know what? You're a bit of a star, Neil. You're gonna get a little closer to me and just give me a hug. There you go.
Good.
Well,
A lot
Cindy,
of love in
here.
the room.
Cindy.
Hi,
Cindy,
guys.
You know what? Honestly, when I was watching with CTV News when Dana came out with his handful of seeds and you were running there, like you've been really a trooper. You've been standing behind Dana, and I see you at all the events, and,
Yes.
and you're like his personal assistant
Yes,
or
I am.
something. you are like making sure Dana is going in the right direction as in fighting for this plant. I think it's just fantastic, and thank you for helping that man because he really does need more people like you helping him. I know what it's like to be, fighting and standing up strong for something you believe in, and you can really see the passion of what you guys are doing, and I really want to say thank you.
Oh,
You know what? It's awesome.
And-
It
and-
is.
so
I mean,
how-
it is. It's
Thank
awesome
you
to
for having
see.
me here.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's
an
like,
honor to be
wow.
here on a Friday, right?
Hey, you know
With
what?
guys,
But
so-
you
That
know
was a
what?
tough trip,
Tell-
wasn't
tell
it? I mean,
us-
a lot of
yeah, tell us
cities
about
in
your
a short
trip.
amount of time.
It was not that tough.
Okay.
It was at the end. The last 3 days were a little tough.
Awesome Valley Boy got his T-shirt.
And how many seeds do you think you gave out?
Oh my gosh! Well, with the help of Jen over there and the office crew,
Jen, come on over here and put your face on
yeah,
TV.
Come on, no,
Come
she won't.
on,
She's
no.
too shy, but
She's got this awesome
um,
necklace though with
we
the
are
kitty cat on
definitely
it.
over 1 million
I
seeds.
love it.
Over 1 million
Over
seeds.
1 million. We're on our second million, and we have buckets more. We have requests for
And,
seeds
and what
all
are you
over the country.
what are you suggesting people do with these seeds?
Well, we would like you to germinate them first before you try to share them around your communities. If you just throw
so
seeds
sprout
out,
them and
it's-
get them
yeah.
going.
Yeah, because if you just throw them out, birds are going to eat them, or the wind, or they're just not going to take in the right places. So
That's actually, I did a video, of course, on my channel, John
Mm-hmm.
LaFellow, on germinating and sexing seeds and stuff like that. And I'm also going to do a giveaway recently on these little things that I've seen from Remo he had on how to determine plant sexing and stuff like that. So these little things that are out there for everybody to take a look
Yeah.
at, proper germination processes, looking for males and how to spot males. So it's really important that you take really good, I mean, it's great that people are growing and learning how to grow this plant. It's the next step. It'll give you life. I mean,
It
that's
is
for
so
me.
amazing. For anybody
is.
who's hesitating to put those seeds into a medium and have them start to sprout, trust me, it is amazing. Once you've got
Come on,
those little
Marty.
things going, you'll love them. You'll be like, oh my God, look at this, and they're growing. And then, you take some photographs, and then over time you can see the transition. And at the end, wow, there you go. That's what we're really looking
Well,
for.
we do have a website, and people haven't really been sending photos into us yet, but we also have Facebook. We still have our event page. I'm in the process of moving it over to just a regular Facebook page. So if you want to go to overgrowcanada.com, request your seeds. We'll be happy to send them to you. If
Cool.
you've already got them going, we would love to see them and let us know where you are. Maybe we'll start a map across Canada with little marijuana leaves everywhere.
Now, the real point of the tour was more about the petition, though, wasn't it?
Well, we did discuss the petition. We discussed a lot of things, how to start dispensaries in their own cities. I mean, they are crying in other cities outside of Toronto.
Cool.
Saskatchewan, we all know what's happened there. They're still trying. They're not going to give up. Calgary, Edmonton, we know what happened in Macros. Those people are not giving up, right? Hi, guys. You're all my friends. And
you go,
I
cool.
enjoyed meeting all the lady warriors along the way.
Nice.
And so...
But with the petition now, I
yeah.
mean, there's a limited amount of time as to when you can sign that.
only till June 9th, so another
Till June
month.
9th. And it's really important. It's really well written. A lot of input from the community on how that got put together. And with Trudeau now saying he's really not going to implement his plan until like next year sometime, it's very important that we get this a lot of support for this and get this presented to them, because not bringing in a regulatory scheme for a year now still means they're going to arrest people.
They are.
And every time they arrest a Canadian, they're doing harm to the fabric of our country and our communities. There's no value to anybody involved, except the gangs. Of course, the gangs benefit when you arrest somebody, because they don't just arrest you, of course, they take your weed away. And arresting you doesn't mean you're not going to keep smoking weed. In fact, you're going to want to right away go get some weed, because you know that the first thing you need once you've been arrested and gone through that type of trauma is you need some medicine to calm you down.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
cannabis is medicine for that more than anything else.
Can
for
I roll
people,
some
right?
of this?
So that person that just got busted, they're going to quickly go back to where they got their weed from and buy some more. So, the gangs are responsible for a large percentage of the amount of weed that's being distributed in Canada. And good on them for doing that. Somebody's got to do the heavy lifting, right? But that is who is being supported by arresting people, is the gangs. And if they arrest a gang dealer, well, there's a lineup of other guys that are now going to take that job, and in many cases, there's blood spilled over who gets to take that job and fill that need. And all of these needs should not be being filled by this underground violent market that lures our kids into dealing drugs.
Hey.
All of that should be done through
Oh.
proper dispensaries and mail
Well,
order
you know
and
what?
home
There's
delivery and
all
so
kind
many
of
other
different
things.
mechanisms. Access is going to be
kinds.
the biggest thing that we want, and that's the biggest thing that we're
Freedom.
looking at.
You
Freedom,
grow your own and trade amongst
cannabis
your friends
rights,
and get it anywhere you
freedom
want.
together. Craft
That's
cannabis,
it.
and that's what we were talking. I was
That's it.
talking about
That was
this
a
with these
great
guys.
video they put
You know
out.
what?
I absolutely
Amazing,
loved it.
and it is about cannabis, right? And it is about freedom together,
Freedom, yeah.
and that's what we're looking at. Freedom with this plant, because it's
If
about
your
this
new
plant.
shiny prime minister
And
doesn't
wait a
give
second
you the
here.
right to grow
Hey,
your own,
hey,
you're not free.
Neil, 1 minute warning, guys. Got a
we're
1 minute
good?
warning before 420, so I'm heating up my torch.
Lighters in this place. Oh,
Okay,
you
we got
torch.
one there.
So I mean, like
This is cool,
I'm
man,
like the
from
420
Hawaii.
guys.
Nice,
like important.
nice.
We
I
got a
got this
bong
one.
there. You can put some weed in that bong.
So preparation is the
And
key,
it's
you
just
know.
like we prep.
I
like
usually start ahead of
for
the
me,
wind,
it's
so let me
important.
hold the
Prep
lighters
and
for
grab
you.
a joint. You got
Oh,
a joint?
okay.
Everybody got a joint?
got
You guys
one
got a
there?
joint? What's everybody smoking for 420 right now? Come on,
I got
chatters.
some
man.
Kush from
Let's hear. We got
Kelowna.
Kush.
I
You
just-
guys,
that's
you
all
got,
there
you got
is
a
in
joint for
Kelowna,
420?
right?
Yeah.
Grab a joint. Happy 420, guys.
Happy
There it is.
420,
As a
my
420.
First time on Pod TV.
First time on Pod
I
TV.
am so thrilled to be here with these guys, even though Jeremiah and Jody aren't here.
They're here in spirit.
yeah, well,
we
we'll
have
see
them on
them
the end of
tomorrow.
this when we want them sometimes.
We'll see
They're kind
them
of on
tomorrow.
call. They could be watching now,
We're
too.
very excited to be here and decorate the vehicles.
Well, you know, it's
so
really
we'll be in the
important that
march
we
tomorrow.
keep this show live and we talk more about what's
Right.
happening in the community. And of course, the Global Marijuana March tomorrow. 12 noon till City.
Art gallery.
be
Most
there.
important part, where are you marching tomorrow? Because it
Yeah.
is the Global Marijuana March.
It'll be a nice,
Ask
beautiful
the chatters,
day.
where you guys, where are you chatting?
Oh,
Where are you
yeah.
marching?
Well, I know they're marching in Calgary because they've shared their poster on our Overgrow Canada page.
They're marching in hundreds of countries around the world.
They're not doing it in Edmonton
probably
as
not,
far as I know, but
wired
they
up
are marching in Calgary. So if you're in Alberta, I think they're meeting at City Hall at noon tomorrow.
Nice.
I've
nice.
also read of other ones, I think down mostly in Ontario.
I see.
We're not having one in Kelowna this year that I know of anyways. I mean, we've tried many times over the past.
If you're not in a city that has a
drastic
march,
here.
you can take part in the Global Marijuana March yourself. You can still make up a sign. You can go to a corner where you think there's a lot of traffic that will see your sign and be creative about what you want to say about things. You know, freedom and rights for cannabis consumers or anything along those lines. Or talk to Justin about what his plans and agenda is for legalization. This is an amazing world we live in, and one person can make a difference. And
No,
wherever you are.
you can make a difference.
We all
You.
can.
And I don't mean to point at you, but
Everybody.
Everybody can. It doesn't.
That's
take
the most
much,
important part.
just a little bit of
People
time.
by numbers change government. People by
Yeah.
numbers have
Look what we
power.
did last
That's
year.
it.
Like,
Look what we do around the world for this plant. We fight more for cannabis freedom. We do for world peace. It's really
absolutely.
like we send. It's that's
Well,
what
it is world
why?
peace.
It's because cannabis gives us world peace. Thank
Yeah,
you, Neil.
that's
I was about
it.
ready to say that.
You were
This is-
getting
I'm
there.
fighting for
Great
world
minds,
peace.
right?
I'm fighting for
You're
freedom
building
and world peace. And,
Well,
and
that's
this
what we
is the
fight
mechanism.
for.
You know, I got some friends that have actually been in Canada for a couple decades, but they're originally from Iran.
Yeah.
And they've got a lot of roots and family there and in the culture and things. And they have a plan. They want to open a dispensary. They want to grow their own weed to sell out of that dispensary. They want to take the weed that they grow and some of the money that they make and give it to ISIS. So that, not the money, but the weed. Because they think that if ISIS is
I was like,
smoking
yeah,
weed.
I was like, wait
then
a
they-
second here.
No,
you know?
no,
I was
they-
like, ooh, you want to give money to ISIS? I was
no,
like,
but they want to use the
damn.
money to
Okay.
have a network
So we want to
that gets
give
weed into the
everybody-
hands of the ISIS
everybody-
guys.
We want to give everybody who is like, feel like that they have to like destroy the world, weed.
Weed.
Yeah.
Because,
That'll-
yeah.
If you're angry and you just hate everything, give us a call. We'll give you some weed, man.
Yeah.
Like here.
Unless you want to be angry. Some people want to be angry.
If you want to be angry, we're
That's
still
cool.
going to give you weed.
As long as you don't hurt anybody, that's your thing.
If you want
We
to be
need
angry,
people too.
come talk to us because
Yeah.
we'll give you some weed.
But yeah, if for whatever ails you, for whatever stresses you, this is really the thing that can do it for you. And I know, John, you're an expert on this. I mean, it's a stress reliever more than anything. I've said that before. But the way that it works and the reasons that it works and how it works with our body is all part of this endocannabinoid system.
It balances, like I said,
It
it's
balances
a
our
master-
systems.
It's a master regulator to the central nervous system.
And we're like way out of our environment here, right? We're living not in the jungles and fields
The
anymore. You know,
endocannabinoid
we're
system, the
we're in
body's
a
own THC.
bustling city system with governments and rules and taxes and all things to do.
Valley Boy
life is
73,
so
we
much
sent
more
him a shirt.
complicated for us than it
I
was
even
for
sent him
generations.
nutrients, and now he's like, send me some weed. He's like, but you have to come get the weed because I can't send it.
No.
No, we're not sending weed.
I could send, and I got
Great
some
offer.
seeds to send away. Oh, Neil,
Yes,
like,
we have
this
tons of
weed's
seeds.
pretty dry.
Yeah.
Really dry.
No, we have
So-
to smoke that.
So here, you know what? I've been using these
Oh.
Bovida packs.
Okay.
Now this is gonna rehydrate this weed. It's gonna give back the terpenes into it.
Let's see that
And the best
working.
part about there's my take. It'll take like
that
give it like
working.
it's not gonna happen.
Do we have a
overnight.
graphic? Do we have?
It's not gonna
do we
happen
put something up
overnight.
on the screen?
But one thing I've been playing with these things, and once I had some old weed and I put these packs in there,
Really?
and well, that's what I've been squishing.
Oh,
Because
so you squish it,
rehydrated
you
and it gave me the-
rehydrate it, and then squish
And
it.
it gave me the terpenes back, and the smell was. I was like, they're not gone. It's just the
right.
moisture that was re-added to it, and I was like feeling this, and like, see, this is nice and moist.
Okay, I'm going to get into this with you, John. So what you're saying is if you have two mason jars and you put an ounce of weed in one and out of the same batch, an ounce of weed in the other, and one of them has one of these packets in it, that the one without it is going to lose terpenes
Yes.
and moisture.
They are going to degrade over time.
So-
100%.
My next question would be then, if you now put one of those packets into that jar, are you rehydrating it and do you get back those terpenes?
Well, the whole thing is what I'm looking at right
Tough
now.
questions.
Hey, it's a tough question because what we're looking at is even if you take like a raisin or anything that has been dried out and you add moisture to it, it brings back that flavor. Doesn't it?
So
Doesn't it?
we're thinking it
It can. So I had some really, really dry weed in a bag, and I started filming it. This is like about a month ago, and I had some fun with it. I threw one of these packs in there because I got them through the guys at Green Planet at first. They handed me some of these. These are, I've used them in the past, but since I've been squishing so much weed lately, I was like, you know what? I got all this dry weed. It's everywhere. I'm out of weed because it's all too dry. So I threw these packs in there, and all of a sudden, it's like I'm squishing everything again. And my weed is just, it's
For me,
Can I
not
see
being a
one?
squisher, my weed gets dry. It's harsh. That's the
Yeah.
problem. It's harsh
And
on the
this
throat.
takes the harshness
So if
out.
it takes the harshness out,
Well, that's what it
then
is.
then yeah.
And
that's-
then I did some more research on these things.
Okay,
These
I'll
are in
promote
every
it.
cigar store. These are for high-end cigars. This is my weed. Why wouldn't I want to use it for my weed? This isn't. This is.
So are we promoting the name of this company here? Or
Well, I don't
does
really
that
care.
matter? You
It's
don't really
like
care
a
about that?
liquid.
Are there
No,
other
none of it.
are there other ones that are similar, do the same thing?
I don't know.
And where are you getting these?
These here, well, they're in
Cigar stores?
They're cigar stores.
Cigar stores.
You know what I mean? There's
Wow.
there are a few people have them in town. I've seen them downstairs at Cannabis Culture. They're
And what
pretty.
is the length of time that they would last?
Well,
One-
I had a few, and I'm having fun, right? I always
This is like so much not mainstream, media, because these people haven't paid us to have their product here.
No, see, this is what happens.
you know.
They get all dry.
Oh, so
And
they
then when they're dry,
Oh.
they're
Time.
garbage.
It looks bigger,
Oh.
that one, yeah.
Right, so this is
Somewhat
like an
bigger.
8 gram. This is like a 4 gram, and I like this because this is more like the end user guy. They only have like a half ounce of weed,
Interesting.
and you know what? I'm about freshness, and really when it comes down to the patient and the people that are consuming the medicine, we want to have that proper terpene content. It's what we're really looking at these days. Everybody's talking about terpenes. Well, terpenes come with moist, fresh weed. Not too moist, not too dry,
No,
but that
in
perfect
mix,
cure.
Yeah.
And that comes up to me. So when they keep cannabis fresh, how are they going to keep it fresh? Probably in coolers, right?
Yeah.
So,
you can.
well, I'm
If
just
you
looking
have-
at it because I see liquor stores, all the liquor
Yeah,
control brands, all the signature stores
absolutely.
putting.
You bet if you're going to talk, you should
Yeah.
probably hold
No,
that
no,
up
we're just
there.
talking more about that. It was
Jeez, I'm
just
not a
I
pro.
saw that.
Well,
with
but the
that,
people
so-
at home want at least hear what
What
she
are
has
they
to
saying?
say.
I'm
too.
usually in the chat over there, so what are
You're
we?
in the chat. Oh, I have watched everybody sell out of it. Finally, funny. I'm just reason. Several years you can charge them, Johnny. You can recharge them, Johnny. See,
Oh.
You could recharge
you can
them.
recharge them.
Wow.
Hey, see, I have no idea.
Yeah, plug them
It's
in.
kinda cool, like,
is
I
this-
mean-
is
I
this
mean,
real? Are-
yeah,
are
this
our
is
heads
live
being
right
cut
now.
off like that?
No, no.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
there
there we go.
We're live right now. Reading chat here.
I thought it looked better the other way from my product point, but whatever.
You can buy Bovota packs on Amazon. There you go. They're pretty much everywhere. Like they're not. There's not like a hidden product or anything like that. They're like just Bovota. Just find them.
Cool.
And I think it's like I look more into it, and it's something that
You're saying my weed is dry, John?
it is bone dry.
Well, I
it
bet
was-
you these
yeah, it was
joints
pretty
are
dry.
too.
Yeah.
I wonder how
Yeah.
it would work on a bag of joints.
See, there you go. How many of those things you got?
Well, you know what?
And
Let's
will
throw-
it do it overnight?
Let's
Because
throw
it is-
one of these into that big bag of joints.
Okay, well, let's light one of
That's
these
all
there.
dry.
Eeny, meeny,
And
this
Neil,
one.
you can let us know tomorrow.
There we go.
Put it right in the middle.
Yeah, why not?
I'll let you know somehow.
There
I
you
have
go.
no idea what they're
We're
like
testing.
right now. I probably won't.
We
be
can
able to
pretty
test
much
them
guarantee
tomorrow.
these were
That's
rolled
fine.
up for 420, so they're pretty dry.
No, you're wrong, John. These were actually rolled for the March.
Oh, were they? They're not dry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you
So they're
did.
pretty good.
Oh, yeah, this
Yeah,
one.
they're
So
good.
tomorrow these are gonna be
The
soaking wet.
Holy
We'll be able to
Rollers,
smoke them. They'll be.
a big thumbs up to our rollers, the crew of Holy Rollers that did that.
And they
That was
work. See,
awesome.
Chilla here in
Chilla.
chat. Everybody says they work.
Oh,
I like
well,
shit.
he
That's
would
why.
know.
That's what I'm using it for. I'm like, this works. Why don't I use things that work? Pretty much, don't you? Hope you guys do.
That's what we're trying to help you with. What works, tell you what doesn't.
You know what works? My lungs.
Okay.
Bobby.
So for the March
Yeah.
tomorrow, I want to thank Weeds, Glass, and Gifts for helping us with stuff
You know,
to do
you,
with
you
the
know the
March
biggest
tomorrow.
people we gotta thank? You guys, the people.
Them too.
Pod TV, Cannabis Culture, Neil Magnuson. Gotta thank this guy.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, you were a great host last
You
year.
know.
I remember you riding in the back of the truck.
Yeah.
I've always
Thank you.
Been
It
at a
was
March.
fun.
It's always been fun.
March has been good for many years. Not as good as I think it should be. I don't think it gets promoted as much as it should.
Well, I thought
And,
it had decreased in
Yeah, how would you
numbers
recharge?
Well-
I'm curious. There's like
since
recharge
my
these.
very first March.
I don't think you're recharging these things. They're dried out. I think they're like a one-time shot deal.
Yeah.
They only
That
worth
seems
like
silly.
a buck
There's-
anyway. So
It's kind of funny, we got 420 is so well attended in Vancouver. It's amazing.
Wasn't it fun?
And
Oh
and
my
we do
gosh.
use the 420 event to promote the March. We didn't do it as good as I thought we could have this year.
sure
There was
that's right.
there was a glitch on getting it onto the big screen, so that's too bad.
there was
But
120,000
still,
people there.
there was so many people there, and here we are. We're a couple of weeks later, 3 weeks later or so, and we're certainly not anticipating 120,000 people.
No, I think
Uh,
Someone's asking
you know,
in
we-
chat here if
couple
I've had these.
thousands, really. way.
We get a few hundred.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
So-
1,000.
Yes, I have
Maybe
had
1,000,
these things.
yeah.
I'm just in chat here. I'm just answering chat. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no, that's fine. What's he
Knows
asking?
if I've ever had them in the jar. I actually just threw them in my jar with weed. Like I had some old of my what was that? The Medi Haze I grew like 2 years ago was in a jar. It's been in a jar sealed, but it's dry.
Yeah.
It does get dry. No, if it's an airtight jar and the weed sits in it for a year, guess what? It's fucking dry.
Yeah.
It's just gonna happen because there is air in there, and that's what. And That's why I've been throwing these packs in there because I'm curious. And my weed tastes good, and I can squish it.
So when you're talking
So
about,
yes, I have, and I haven't seen the ink wear off of it or anything like that because I've been looking at it in there, so I have no idea what they're doing actually.
another tough
I'm gonna
question,
find out
John.
more.
So when you're talking about the difference in the terpenes and the moisture, is this tests you're running with equipment, or is this just how it feels and looks to you? Smells.
This is talking with the owners and the manufacturers and finding out more about the product in the last 24 hours.
I see.
Yeah.
So
Really
that's their
curious.
claim is that
Looking more in on it and then seeing what I've experienced because of my own bag of weed that was bone dry and stuff like that. What I saw, so I was just like, wow, what's with this? What's the percentages being lost? What's the percentages with what's being evaporated out of a container? And how is this be able to? In reality, it's saving me money because I'm not losing that moisture and the jar and all those terpenes coming out of my medicine in the jar. Because I'm gonna open and close that jar a little bit. I have my jars. I open and close it for 2-3 months, and over time they get really, really dry. So
I
this
would
just seems
wonder
like
if maybe a
I've
smaller
never
jar.
these been presented to me before. I've seen them in the past, but I never really caught on to them until I was able to squish my buds again. And when that happened to me, I was just like,
you
this
squish.
is a whole new thing, right? I got bone dry weed. You can't squish it because when you squish it, you get little particles on all of your rosin. You guys know what I'm talking about? Really, really dry.
You,
Buds, when you squish it,
squished that out of a bud, eh?
yeah.
Nice.
And it was really dry bud, and I threw one of these packs in there a couple of weeks ago, and then I was squishing it this morning, and I was really happy. I was like, really, this is actually. So now I'm not getting all the particles.
So
in there. It's
this
not bone dry.
increased your yield off that.
Didn't increase my yield. It gave me that perfect squish, which in
So-
reality I never weigh anything. Okay, so I can never tell you the yields I get because I'm really not about the yield. I'm all about getting what I can get. You know what I mean? It's not like a big thing for me. It's like how much am I getting? I know I'm getting about 25-30%. I've done some testing with certain things and get percentages of what the THC levels are and stuff like that. That's a good kind of knowledge to know. But overall, I mean, we all want to know what's in our medicine, right? And if we have consistency, I'm always talking about standardization. Consistency is going to be in your bud too, and how fresh it is and stuff. That's why people put it in fridges and stuff like that. And don't store it in the freezer for like a year. It's not smart. Like, guys, I've had my weed in the freezer for like 3 years. It's going to be fresh. I'm like, yeah, no. It's got a completely different cannabinoid profile now. And a lot of people never even think about that over the conversion rates. Yeah, so we know that. So there's always going to be that perfect temperature and time. It's like the humidors. That's where they keep your cigars in, right? And that's the perfect temperature and stuff for your weed. Funny that they use these in all the high-end cigars and stuff like that. They're gonna put these in with $500 cigars. It's gonna be good for your
I
weed.
agree. I'm
Yeah.
curious to see if they're all fluffed up tomorrow.
Well, it's not
One
fluffy,
day,
but
like-
I'm curious too, right?
Yeah.
Like,
They will
so
not be all fluffed up.
We'll
That'll
see.
be.
we're not looking at fluffy. We're gonna see are they that really harsh bone dry, right? Like there's some packs. I got a bunch of them on me.
Oh,
Well, they're getting lots of plugs.
all right. What else should we talk about?
I want to talk more about government regulations.
You know what? You know what we really got to talk about?
Other than the Global Marijuana March?
Well, that was smart.
I
We
think
gave away a
it's-
bunch of free seeds. That was really important. We talked about the new lounges that are opening up in Vancouver and what's happening with the fines and what the government's trying to do. We're looking at new regulation coming in by August 24th. We got some of the biggest lawyers in Canada working on this for us and fighting. I don't know what's happening exactly with that mail-out on when they put on an envelope telling the world that I was growing marijuana and sent it to my house.
Oh yeah, that.
All right.
Case, right?
So
Yeah.
there's that court case that's still
Yeah.
ongoing, and I think Judge Palin is also actually making remarks on that. So there's lots of stuff happening. We're looking at 2017 and what we see coming up for the new legalization platform. And I think right now it's you people out there that are going to be making a difference to governments so they make the proper choices for the legalization
Well,
platform.
I sure think the BC
Being
Liberals,
loud.
like, they've been quiet, hey? We really haven't heard anything from...
Well, all he keeps saying is he's going to keep the kids safe, and it's...
no, the BC Liberals, like Christy
Oh, the
Clark.
BC Liberals.
Right? Like,
Hey.
we're not hearing
Oh, the
anything from our
BC
provincial
Liberals.
government, right?
Never. And worse than that, we
they
never...
should be the first ones to
Worse
stand
than that,
up
we
and
never
say
hear
we're
anything
gonna-
from our official opposition in British Columbia about it either.
neither.
It's kind of a taboo topic in BC politics with respect to the whole cannabis issue. They seldom ever bring it up. I'm sure they're smoking lots of it. Christy Clark was a chronic back when she was in school, and why wouldn't she be smoking some of the best BC bud going on? I'm sure
Well,
she's
yeah.
just wringing her hands
that teacher's
for
strike in
legalization as
Larson
far as
Center that
no
we-
longer having to
Aren't
hide
they-
in the closet, you know?
Aren't they all smoking?
Of course they're all smoking. We
But
have some of the
why
best
would,
weed
would
in
our premier not want to be the first one in Canada? Like, I mean,
Well,
there's 10 other...
big money has to be the answer.
Well, who's going
It's
to be
all
first?
about money.
It's going to be little
So-
Newfoundland or...
Well, it
somewhere,
has
you
everything
know,
to do with corporate.
Something cray-cray, and...
It's
gonna-
going to be. You're going to see. We're going to see legalization, but not the way that most are going to want it. But the most that we're talking about are the activists and the people that have been involved in the core group of this plant and spreading the news about this plant and trying to get it out there so people realize that it is just a plant and it's not some like evil thing.
One-
that's
one of the
destroying
better
the
plants.
world and it's a gateway to all other drugs. No, it's not. It's protecting your kids from everything. It regulates their whole bodies. But anyways.
Yeah, I mean, these are the myths that we're dealing with, and this is the problem, is because
That's awesome.
We're gonna
They just
get-
cranked up the music in here.
I think the lounge is open.
So we're getting a
You
little
can
bit
come
of
on
a-
down to the Cannabis Culture Lounge, by the way.
Oh yeah, 100%. We got the new one
There's
on
a new
Davie Street
dispensary
too.
that's been opened up just a couple blocks up the street on Beatty Street. And when you're there and you can't consume on site there yet, but you can come just a couple blocks to Cannabis Culture. And that's where we broadcast from right here. There's a beautiful lounge here. There's 2 floors. You can come. You can get cannabis here now. They'll sell you bong hits and dabs and joints. And so, yeah, it's happening, and it's right here. With these regulations now, because, you know, it's an amazing thing that's going on. We've basically won the day with respect to legalization. We've elected a government, and they know they got elected in on the youth vote, and that's a lot about their stance on legalizing cannabis, and they say they're going to do that. So what John, you're right, there's going to be so many different models of legalization all
Yes.
across Canada. Every jurisdiction is going to be different from
100%, that's what we're
provincial to
saying.
municipal. And you know, how are they going to do this? And it's up to, you know, the community to really force their municipal government to follow
Make
good
the-
practices
make
and
the
get it
right
right.
choices
And we are
for
not
the
doing
people.
that in Vancouver. They are
Not
not
at the moment.
doing that in Vancouver.
Well, what's-
They,
what's-
there's several things that are wrong. For those of you who don't know what's going on here, they've implemented a whole host of regulations and imposing them on these 140 or more shops that are open and operating without a license, that if they want to get a license, they have to comply with shutting down 7 of their revenue streams, which would be like having an ATM machine in their store, with having a vapor lounge in their store, with selling edibles, with selling only to people 19 and they want 25 and over. No home delivery and no mail order, all these different things, and each one of those is extremely
delivery?
crucial. No home delivery.
See,
And-
that is so crucial because I know I
They're
did a
all
lot of work
crucial.
with the Green Cross, and that was between 2006 and 2010. And home delivery was one of the most important parts to keep patients that
To
were active
those
with-
people
they
that
couldn't
need
leave.
it,
They couldn't leave.
they can't get it
They
any
just
other
couldn't
way.
leave. There was absolutely no way
Yeah.
for them to get it without the home delivery part
Yeah.
of a lot of
Or mail
patients.
order, you know,
Mail
which is
order,
home
mail
delivery,
order.
you know, same thing. But in your community, there's people that can't get out to a local dispensary, and they don't know anybody that they would trust to go
Yeah,
there
people
for
that
them, and they can't go there for them anyway. So, and no vapor lounge is outrageous to not have an ability to consume your medicine. Many people are from out of town; they're trying to deal with their issues, and here's a place to do that. But oh no, you can't use it in your hotel room, and you can't use it outdoors, and none of these dispensaries have a consumption
much
lounge
no,
for
we
you.
can't use it in a
So, you know, every single, I mean, even the ATM machine, I can go on and on about each one of those. Each one of those is not just a lost revenue stream that allows for the overall, oh, I overloaded the system.
Oh, no.
We might
Oh.
still be live. Could be John's
Oh,
screen.
that's hilarious. That's pretty funny. Should
Well,
buy a lottery ticket.
I don't know, should we carry on like as if we're live? Okay, we're streaming
Okay.
live. So
Hi,
yeah,
everybody, we're still here.
each one of those revenue streams allows for the price of cannabis to come down, the original, what you're selling mostly, and especially to be able to have pricing schemes that allow low-income people and people that have those types of barriers to be able to access good quality medicine. So
Yeah.
the city's got these ridiculous regulations that they've imposed on people, and there's a $30,000 licensing fee.
Well, yeah,
So-
you know what? That's for extra police force apparently that they're gonna need to have around these places.
Which are going to
I
have
was
huge
just curious.
lineups if they get their wish and only have
Well, you know what? Well,
a
here's the
small
whole thing.
amount of
Let's
dispensaries.
really, look at what they're licensing these places to do, to distribute and sell cannabis, not to purchase it. So really, in reality, come on, let's take a really good look at what's
Wordplay.
happening. I mean, it's all wordplay, and this is being discussed. And I always want to know what the elephant in the room. No one wants to talk about where are we going to get it from. And I tell you right now, none of
That's
these
one of
clubs
them.
are paying $30,000, and not one of them are getting an okay to go and purchase. And I've talked about this on past shows.
Yeah.
People have left their dispensaries, went home, and had the money taken out of their car and said it was organized crime, and they knew they owned clubs in
Yeah,
Vancouver.
I know club
Ah.
owners have
And
lost
it's-
cars.
They've lost. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is just reality. So in reality, if you look at what we're fighting for, and what's happening, and I truly believe, and I've said it before. I've talked with Jason. I've talked to lots of people about it. And what's happening is these are going to be places for dispensing, and their cannabis is going to be coming from LPs. It's not going
LPs.
to be coming from mom and pop. Like
Yeah, they won't allow
like
that.
like
Yeah,
like
it
an
will.
Amsterdam market. Since it's happening so much in Toronto, maybe if Vancouver would have
But
stayed
the
little
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam.
LPs, how many are there now? 13, 14?
36.
Okay, well, even 30. They
they're
can't
growing.
supply the whole of Canada.
Oh, well, but-
even in a
and-
year from
Well, they'll
now,
license
even
a
in
bunch
2
more.
years,
And-
well, they would
and
have to
There
license hundreds
are
and
plans
hundreds and
afoot
hundreds.
and
to
what-
control
what-
the entire market. There really are plans afoot to do that.
There are tons of ways of supplying a market, and I mean, right now we've been.
They
smoking
couldn't
and
do it
buying
right
weed.
now. They couldn't do it in a year from
1985,
now.
I was buying it from an arcade from a hole in the wall. It
There are
was
so
15
few
bucks a gram.
problems with anything that you would consider bad weed that the need to regulate that is very, very low.
With legalization, I think we're going to come to a different era in 2017 where, like they have in different states and stuff, where everybody's going to be able to grow a certain amount of plants. And
Oh, gosh, let's hope so.
I look at mandatory sentencing with
Better
6
be a
months
large
or
amount of
bill us
plants.
10. So they're saying, you know what, basically legally you can have 5 plants. You know, you can buy from a licensed producer, and if you're medical, we give you a little bit of extra, and you can have 25 or 30.
Isn't
plants.
that nice of
Yeah,
them?
And
that's
let's see what things gonna happen.
sounds
and
great.
that would that be a perfect cannabis
No.
club where we could all grow our own?
No.
Well, it
Unless
would be
they have
nice
some
for-
good reason to say you can only have 5 plants, like 5 tomato plants or 5 blueberry bushes, fuck them. Fuck them all. They're fucking public servants. They
think-
don't deserve to have any input in my life unless I'm harming somebody. And these regulations are nothing but bullshit attempts to control me and my life and take
Yes.
money away from me, and they're in complete violation of my natural rights to be a free person. The City Hall in Vancouver is out of their gourd thinking that they can do this, and the problem is they still can. They've developed themselves a world where they're not held to account for these things. All you get to do is vote them out. And they're in such serious violation. They are harming serious people. Right now, there are dozens, if not hundreds of people in Vancouver that are out of a job right now, just in the last week or so, because of these stupid regulations for no good reason that they're bringing in here. Look at how they regulate alcohol. Recreational alcohol in Vancouver is regulated compared to medical cannabis like this.
the difference. Yes.
You can bring your kids in, for example. They can be clustered together all over the place, anywhere they like, within half the distance of what medical dispensaries can be from schools, and they're all over the place. Alcohol dispensaries are in cafes, they're in bars and restaurants and discotheques, if they have those anymore. But you know what I mean? They're everywhere. This is an alcohol-based society. You're not allowed to have an ATM machine in a medical dispensary, but you can have them in a liquor store. There's no delivery allowed for a medical cannabis dispensary, but the liquor stores are delivering till late at night. It's the regulations make absolutely no sense. Recreational alcohol is a huge problem in our society. We've got statistics to back that up. The city has no statistics to justify why they would be regulating medical cannabis to patients anywhere near, but yet so much harshly more than they are for recreational alcohol. So they deserve to be taken to task on that. There's no mechanism in our society to do that other than the media and when they come up for voting in the next
Like,
election.
I agree with you, absolutely.
I can agree
But
with you, Neil. Like,
the
I
thing
know how
is,
passionate you are.
yes, and
It's just
it
wrong.
Feels great. It's just getting
like,
me
it's
like
hurting
my
people.
GB's going. But yeah,
Well, you know, I mean, we've been fighting this for a long time, and what are we fighting for? That we can have a few plants? That maybe we can carry a certain
and I
maybe
think-
on us, only if we have maybe
you know what we're
permission,
fighting
or,
for?
But the
you know,
world-
we're
Right
fighting
to
for
freedom
freedom.
together. We're fighting for
Freedom.
on the planet.
The freedom for
It's just
everybody in all kinds of issues to do whatever they want to do unless they're harming somebody else. Because this is the issue that I've grabbed onto, because my fight is about freedom. It's not really about weed. I smoke weed. I get away with it. I know how to do that. You know, I'm
Yeah,
a
I can
veteran.
smoke
You know, I'm going to
anywhere.
smoke weed. It's
Like,
not about
no
me.
matter what, I don't care.
And
I'm
it's
gonna
not
do it.
about weed, really. The only reason it's about weed is because if you can't use this plant, if you can't grow a plant and harvest its flowers and use it because it helps you with your stress and helps you feel better or helps you go to the moon and back, I don't care. If you can't do that, then you're not free.
to the moon.
To the moon.
Moon
To
rocks.
the moon.
Moon
Yeah,
rocks
hell
are
yeah.
awesome.
To the moon.
To the moon.
Calms me down.
Okay.
Maybe I shouldn't
Okay,
be
let
a
me
weed
talk.
smoker. I'd get the job
Okay.
done because
Just
I go
a
and demand
tiny
it.
little opinion of
the
mine,
moon.
To the
because
moon.
I don't live here, right? Although
Where
I
is it?
follow very carefully what goes on here, right? But I think the rest of Canada, you know, has the eyes on Vancouver,
Yes.
and it is such a shame
Such a
that
shame.
Mayor Gregor is doing this. And it was like a year ago when we stood in front of him, all of us, right, in City Hall there, and you know, and I had that feeling that day that, you know, that it was going on deaf ears, right?
Yeah.
That all we watched you guys on the closed circuit from the other room.
We told him the truth and you didn't
know,
listen.
I just felt, yeah, it was just like,
Well,
and
for those of
when
me-
I got to speak that day, I was nervous, and I told them that the rest of the province, mostly, although I should have said the country, but I did say the province.
world.
Yeah, and the world.
The world is watching.
The eyes were watching Mayor Gregor and their choices, and I have to say, as like a person that doesn't live here, that it's terrible. Like the choices they're making, and the people that are closing their dispensaries right now, it's heartbreaking for them.
Even the loss of edibles when that
Yeah,
happened.
yeah, but
It was huge.
that
People were
should have
really
opposed it
understanding the
then.
value
Rather
of
than
edibles.
accept it, they
and
should
then
have
gone.
opposed it then. And
Wait a second here. The biggest part about medicine as a patient are the edibles for me. It's always been
Oh, for
all
some
about
people,
the
yeah.
THC. That was a big thing for me. So taking away the right for people to properly
I know.
medicate, because a lot of people don't smoke, and
Yeah.
we know that.
Right.
And it was
That's
When
true.
I
Or
was saying they're all
vaporizer.
bad, John,
Right.
you're right. The edibles stands above the others
That's true.
in the importance
I
for people.
myself don't do a lot of
And-
them,
and
but
I
I could
find
bake them.
Yeah, and you know what? But when I deal with a lot of people that deal with a lot of really chronic conditions, and the
Yeah.
edibles is what gets they're going,
Well,
they
and
need
now-
it. Because when you're dealing with a condition, having that amount of THC daily, and I'm even talking with friends like Ashley stuff. She's now on a daily regimen, and she's not getting sick anymore. So there's certain things that are helping. With just that daily smoking gets that. But that consistency of every night, just taking 20 or 50 or 100 milligrams
Milligrams, yeah.
of cannabinoids on a regular basis, you start seeing a difference. We start seeing a patient's life change. My neighbor Mike, he's got cancer. They cut
I know
out his
Mike.
bones, everything. He's doing amazing.
Yeah, he
his
is.
energy levels in the last 3 months, he takes like 150 milligrams every day and every night. The guy walks 18, 20 kilometers a day. He said he put 600 kilometers on his shoes.
That's awesome.
And then
Amazing.
and he had major surgery 5 months ago.
Yeah.
Like myself,
Well,
when I started walking.
and back to the edibles, like look
it's
what
the edibles.
Victoria's
That is the
done
edibles.
though with their regulations, right? In Victoria, right there.
Good on Ted Smith and all those people in Victoria that helped to drive that policy.
Yes. The Victoria
because they
ones now are more of an ideal for us out of
Of course.
the city.
Now we're
going
gonna have to follow them.
Right?
It's good to see is we see municipalities, each individual municipality sending them and making, and like at least we're seeing this. I mean, it's not. Shit, I was talking about 10 years ago. We couldn't do anything. We were hiding behind things.
That's
Actually,
right.
not me. I was like, didn't care.
I didn't care
Duh,
either,
come on.
but-
Yeah, I know. That's like, but in
still
the
don't.
in the 80s and 90s, like you couldn't do nothing. You
No.
had to hide. You had to put spray on. You carried little things. You
Visine,
had chewing gum. You
yeah,
washed your
like,
hands.
It was all
you
a big
wore
secret
gloves.
for sure. Yeah.
It was ridiculous, and what we've been going through, our 90% of our lives with this plant.
And that's what I'm saying is we've come a long way.
come so
We've worked
far.
hard to get
So
here,
far.
and now
And
we're not going back
We're not.
with a bunch of reefer madness nonsense about let's save the children and the developing mind.
so far. Look at this. It's like
Well,
Yeah.
You're separating all that stuff at the end of the
speaking
show.
of
You know
seeds,
that, eh?
You know, like we have to go back to Calgary here in like 10 days' time. I think it's 11 days' time now. Dana Larson's been charged with seeds, right?
Yep.
So yeah,
That'll
we're-
be interesting to follow.
Yeah, we have a rally planned in Calgary, and it's going to be so much fun. There's so many great people there, and
Nice.
so much support. So
Thanks,
we also
John.
have a Facebook event
How's some
page for
seeds?
that.
How many seeds are in that?
That's guess right now.
Let
I
me tell you,
guess.
John. This particular pack of seeds here would sustain your family for nutrition for probably, well, the better part of a year, I would say.
You would need a
I mean,
humongous crop to plant.
I mean,
all of
if
these
if
seeds.
you had one pack of these a day and nothing else, you would be healthy, fit, trim, lots of energy.
What's wrong
One
with you? I
pack
would
a
germinate
day.
these. I would grow
That's
them
not a
out.
lot of seeds.
These 4 packs are going to feed a small community.
There
Not
you
just
go.
like your family.
And you
And
know,
we have
actually,
given away
I
so many,
could actually
you guys,
feed a
on
small
the
and
tour.
before you eat them,
The cops
you,
thought they took.
you should
like,
pick out the top half dozen or so
Yeah,
and put them in your
separate.
garden, because by the time you finish
You
these,
should germinate them.
you're going to have a whole lot more. And you and all of your livestock and family can make these into all kinds of delicious foods
Awesome.
and be healthier than your government wants you to be. So yeah, that's how many are in here, John.
Oh.
A whole year's worth for a
At
family.
least 10,000
and then,
in there. at
and then
least.
generations
Oh,
and
around 100.
generations and generations of
count?
people benefiting from those that
We
would continue to grow on
We
after
estimate
that.
This one's got 150. This
So-
one's got 35.
I remember when they were
Around that,
sending
yeah,
Mark
it's pretty
Emery
close to
down
100, all
to
of 'em.
prison. When they were sending Mark Emery to prison for 5 years
Yeah,
for
isn't that
the horrible crime of
No, they sent him to
selling
prison.
these seeds to people. I remember Chris Bennett and I did a thing for the cameras outside of the courthouse where we exchanged some money for just a few seeds. And the question was asked, how much cannabis could you produce with those 4 seeds? Well, the truth was we could overgrow the American government with just 4 seeds in only several generations.
I'm going to Snapchat.
So,
they would multiply
you know,
so much.
Oh, for sure, and you don't even need to just rely on
Live
the
Pod TV.
Oh yeah, we're doing Snapchat, Pod TV.
Awesome.
Snapchat, you guys. This is my first show.
My first
you go.
show. Hey.
It's not my first show.
No.
Downtown.
There we go. You look a lot like Jeremiah in that. You could have really pulled off that "Hey Potheads and Political Junkies."
Hey,
thing.
podheads and political junkies. This is Jeremiah. No.
There you, almost.
You know what?
Almost,
I can't
yeah.
say that because for me, it's like, you know, hey, all of you wonderful people out there that are supporting and getting involved with this plant and helping more education and helping people realize that this is just a plant.
It's a small one.
It's not a drug. Well, it is. It's a nice one. It helps us out quite tremendously. But I mean,
Drug has so many definitions, doesn't
so
it?
many definitions and
And you say the word drug.
It took us a while. Man. There's a major problem with my laptop. I think
We had no feedback. We didn't know if we were on or not.
Wonder if my daughter's watching. Doubt it.
Okay, so we're
She can
wondering
watch it later because you
Yeah.
can go back and watch
No, I'll
these
be telling
apparently.
her.
if Cindy is your mom.
Oh my
Anything
God.
you want to say to your daughter now? Cindy?
Is there anything
I
you'd
have
like to
so
say?
many kids that call me mom. So when you say that, it makes me laugh.
Cool.
So no.
So yeah, that's a lot of seeds.
Yes,
Well-
100 in there. That one looks like maybe.
Well, you know what?
120.
Actually, there's 111 in that one. Can we can we give away some seeds on the show tonight?
We can absolutely go out on the street and hand out some seeds.
Oh no,
and
we're
some
not going
cards.
out on the street to
Why
hand out
not?
seeds.
Okay, well, where are we gonna go?
We're gonna go. Gonna pick up that camera and away we go. Eh?
Anne, would you like some seeds?
I gave away last night. I was at the Women Grow
Yeah.
meeting, and most of the people, to my surprise,
I can give. She doesn't
did
have
not
any
pick
seeds.
up their free
Cindy?
seeds.
She doesn't have any seeds.
Absolutely.
There
didn't
you go.
get any
We
at
gave away
420
some seeds on
either?
the show.
So I think it would be
But-
really cool and
Yeah, I
really we
gave
should
away
talk about
lots
this.
last night.
I think the lounge should start germinating seeds in the windows.
Okay. Let's do
Everywhere.
that right now.
Let's start a
Talk
pack.
to Jody.
There's 100 seeds. Let's start 100 plants.
Yeah.
Well, you get
So
80,
don't
85
forget, you guys,
maybe.
Overgrow Canada.
.com.
100 high CBD cannabis seed strains, Freedom Dream.
Yeah, that's the name of our strain.
Yeah.
We distributed
Dream.
well over 1 million seeds
And,
on the tour.
There you guys
and
go.
then we've sent out
Hey, I dropped you.
hundreds of thousands more.
Are you breaking stuff?
It's a king crop.
I heard something.
Crop King Seeds, don't
Crop
forget
King.
them.
Oh, don't forget.
A major
I saw
sponsor
the
of the
barge at
studios, major
420.
sponsor of so many good things. The barge at 420
I
was
saw it.
it was
Hey,
amazing.
you know what? He actually managed to put in a bylaw. You cannot do floating barges in the bar
Anymore.
Anymore.
Yeah.
Thanks to Crop King
I saw
Seeds.
that too.
They
I
passed a bylaw
Yeah,
because
right?
of that?
They do shit like that. They
Oh.
actually go. They're like, okay, look at. They're smart. Okay, let's make a law.
Yeah.
Make a law.
Yeah.
Now, what,
they're like,
what
like
was
it
the
is.
harm in the barge? Like, what's their justification? Oh, right. They don't have to give any
I don't know.
justification.
No, they don't.
They can
no.
just make a bylaw. We don't like this. We're going to make a bylaw. We are your authorities. These are not authorities, folks. These are civil servants, these mayors and these councilors and these people that we pay because they're supposed to serve the public's interest. And it's so gone to their head. They think they're our boss. They think they're authorities. They come in, they're just so full of themselves and pompous as they walk through that place.
So would you
and they can get away with just about
running
anything.
for city council? Like,
We're all
I
gonna vote
don't
for Neil.
know about that.
Come
What
on,
I-
Neil.
well, like
what
how else do we
That's
get
not
change
what I
if
want.
we
That's
don't
not-
That's
get
what you
someone?
want.
I don't think-
Well,
I-
if we
I
don't
want
get
it.
someone
I
into
don't
City
want
Hall,
it.
there
Neil,
won't be
you
change
want
in
it.
I
this
don't
city.
want. I would
know
love
you
to have. I don't.
But
I don't want the
okay.
whole package, right?
I know that.
The only one
I
good part
want
of it-
rules for
It's
these
hard.
people. I want these people's feet held to the fire. I want accountability and transparency in what
Yes.
they do. That they should not be able to just pass laws for no good reason. Sit around and listen to a bunch of different personal private interest groups, lobby them with a whole bunch of BS and babblegaff and mirrors and smoke and shit,
As you can
and
hear.
get their way done because really what it is they gave them $100,000 under the table to run their campaigns and all of those other favors that are being bought from our politicians right across the board, right to the federal level. I mean, although I must say, much as, I got a lot of angst against what Stephen
got
Harper did
Jeremiah
do,
calling. Jared, what's
he
up?
also put in
Jared.
laws against those
Jared,
types
hey,
of
wait.
things too.
Jared,
Hey.
I wonder if they're watching.
we're still live. We got like.
Hey, Jeremiah.
Yeah.
We should go Skype. Can we get his picture on there?
Do you want to Skype us, Jared? What's up?
Another one.
Nothing. I just was seeing if you're still live, but we're just up the street, so I'm gonna come down and see you soon.
Okay,
Oh,
well we're gonna
hey, there
hold
you
on
go.
here. We're gonna get Jared. We're actually gonna get the
Okay.
guy that hosts
We're
the
gonna have
show.
a guest on the show.
We're gonna have a guest on the show. Jared, you gonna be our guest?
on the show.
I'm at the dispensary right now, but we're coming over soon.
Perfect.
All right,
Well, we're gonna
cool.
have Jared and
Apparently
Jody.
we're
will be
gonna
on
have a
soon.
special guest.
See you soon.
Tell him
Special
when
guest.
Neil's here. He's
See,
always talking.
They're like, you still live? Of course we are. We're having fun with
Well, what
all
time
of you
is it?
guys. So,
Snack time.
What were we talking about? Was it important? Was it the Global
Neil,
Marijuana March
Neil?
tomorrow?
Okay, wait a second.
Tomorrow, the Global Marijuana
Oh.
Valley
March?
Boy says you should move to the country.
I should do what?
Move out to the country.
Move out to the country, settle down,
Then you
slow
would
down.
listen
No,
to
you have
him.
to settle down, but you
Talk
know
to
what?
the cows.
And just be with the plants. Hey,
I
Aaron.
love plants.
Oh, I did. That's awesome. I decided to host the show today because there's no one here, so. Yeah, you know what? Do you want to be live on
They
Pod
left.
TV?
They left
No?
the equipment.
But this guy doesn't want to be live, but I know he's guaranteed he can stand over there and feed me some of those epic dabs he's got on him because he's definitely got some of the nicest hash that I've seen in a long time.
All right. Well, he
I
can
mean, he
take
don't even
So-
know who he is. We're just gonna shout him
that.
out.
Take my bucket.
I know the thought that I was just on. I just want to finish that. These are public servants.
Yes.
They hold.
back to
They
this,
hold
yeah.
the public's trust.
Yes, they do.
And if
And
they
they're elected.
violate that, we need to have mechanisms to deal with that. So, folks, that's my message. That's what I was ranting about. I wanted to finish that up.
Neil,
These are not our authorities. These
we
are
see
public
your
servants.
passion, and they are public servants.
And look what they're
exactly
doing
it
to
is.
people.
Yeah.
They have no
I mean,
business hurting
it's
people.
ridiculous. They waste taxpayers' money on fighting
This one tastes
You
to
know,
put people in jail for a
They,
plant.
they hold a very fragile
with people?
position holding the public's trust because what a real crime is in our society is intentionally causing harm to somebody else. And you're judged on how much of a crime that is and how much of a penalty you get based on how much damage that they can show that you did. So that's why we've got that blindfolded older matriarch holding the set of scales. And on the one side of the set of scales, they put the damage that they can prove that you did, and then they're supposed to balance those scales. Well, if you're a public servant and your position is that you get to make decisions that affect a whole bunch of people's lives, when you make a decision because some private lobbyist group managed to convince you that you should go with them because they gave you a bunch of money mostly, but a whole bunch of other maybe reasons that aren't the truth, and you go with that, well, you just violated the trust that you have held in you by all of the public, and those especially that you've harmed by that. So you walk a very fragile road when you're a public servant and you're making those decisions. And And when you're found to have made decisions that have gone against the public's trust to favor private interests and have, as a result, harmed a lot of people, like this last week with hundreds of people now going to be out of work at dispensaries, and the patients that can't get access, the fear that's gone through the community because of that, all of those things, the damage that you've done, the weight that you've put on that one side of the set of scales is so enormous compared to just about any other crime in our society that these things need to be held accountable. These people need to be held accountable for what they're doing. And they shouldn't be able to get away with what they're getting away with here in Vancouver, with stopping the access of patients and putting a whole bunch of people out of work and using bullshit reefer madness logic to do it.
We're going to dab Neil out,
Oh boy.
and he might not want
Well,
to take the whole dab.
the only way to change who's at City Hall is to, have candidates in the next election.
need good
right?
people to run for sure.
And who's going to do that?
I'm old
Well,
now.
we
It's a
know
lot of work.
We know what's happening. We know there's a legalization platform coming for 2017.
So we need
Whatever that
How we're gonna
means.
see it.
person. Maybe it should be Jacob.
We don't.
There's a lot of good people that
But
should
we
take
don't know
that
how
job.
things are going to happen. But one thing we do see is we do see some changes happening. But you have to help make those proper
course.
choices for the governments to make the proper
yeah,
changes
people need to
for
group
access for
together
us to
and
use this.
Figure
And
it
that's
out.
together.
And they did, I
And
mean, this
joining
last
together
federal
as a
election,
huge
thanks,
community.
good on everybody that
That was
got out and
amazing.
voted out the
We
conservatives.
have all of
We
these
did
clubs, we
it.
have all these groups, but really in reality, we're all fighting for one thing. We're fighting for freedom with
Freedom.
this
Yeah,
plant.
human
And
rights,
this plant,
freedom.
and just freedom for this plant.
Yeah, and
Right?
we'll
When we
get
get
it.
freedom for the plant,
Look
we're
at
gonna
it.
get everything else around it. So
Yeah.
it's one thing that we all. I mean, this is what it's everywhere. Everything we use is for this plant.
That any tax dollars would be used
Right.
to
Yeah.
try to prevent people from
Look at
accessing this
everything it
plant
generates
is a
from
huge crime
papers
against
to-
our
I gotta
society.
buy the water to put in the bong. I gotta buy the tool to do this. I
Yeah,
gotta
yeah,
get the
yeah, yeah.
sticker, and I
Oh.
gotta get the paper, and I need the roly papers with a piece of paper. I need the cell phone so I can Snapchat it, show
It's-
people what
yeah,
I'm doing.
it's
The laptop
part
so I
of
can-
our life
You know
now.
how much cannabis is part of your life? Everything that surrounds you is part of that.
Yeah,
plant.
and that's why I gave up my previous job, right? I don't know if you guys know that, right? I've been like a hot dog vendor most of my life, and I'm just not doing it anymore, right? I'm just not doing food. I only want to do weed, right?
Weed just
am
gives
so
that
done.
vibe. And
Yeah.
I talk about this, and the people that you meet all around the world, the next thing you're talking to, one guy's like, oh, I was just talking to so-and-so. I'm like, oh, well, we were just doing that on Hash Church. She's like, yeah, they were talking
I
about
watched that for
And,
the
well,
first
it's just
time.
another big community that we're joining, and more people, and it's getting this community together and really getting it out there. Hitting
I
share on
agree.
your Facebook page, on this Paul TV, what we're talking about right now. Just like hit share, getting that information out there. More and more people are seeing it. People get on Twitter, they follow us. The government's follow
You're
us.
all
They know
dabbed
what's
out.
going on. I just dabbed Neil
know.
out. I was like,
funny.
Neil's been talking like I
He's been quiet for the last while,
turn
hasn't
to
he?
talk. Whoa! I see a bag of goodies on over here. We
Okay,
can't
well,
show it. I know.
I can go sit with the ladies over there.
All right.
yeah,
Well,
fine.
thanks,
Oh, no, he's-
thanks for
he's-
coming on the
he's-
show.
Absolute pleasure.
Come back again. We love having you on the show.
guarantee he's not coming on camera at all. He's
Oh,
like, I ain't
well.
moving. Cindy, we need you here.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? Look at the good work that you've been doing and what you've been
Yes.
doing for us.
And it's so much fun.
Hey, you
Right?
got.
I mean,
If you're
the
gonna talk, you
stories-
got to talk into that
The
thing.
stories
it's
that
fun.
you have, and you've
Yes,
been with
I do.
Dana, you sat right there when he was arrested. You
Yeah,
watched him walk
actually,
away.
I
I
handled
mean,
the
what was
crowd afterward? There was cameras. There was
Exactly.
Like, I didn't see a lot.
and
of
how
the
calm was
footage, but-
Dana? He's just like whatever.
Oh, we didn't even talk about it because you know why? He slept most of the way on the way to Calgary. Like we should have been talking about
Yeah.
things like our plan, right? I didn't even have Kirk's number. And he's like, he's in the police car. It was more like a 4x4 type thing in at the window. And
They gave him a little
I'm
bit of
like,
room, eh?
what's Kirk's number? And he's like, I don't know. Because he doesn't know. And then later I found
dial.
out
Wow.
I had the cell phone. His cell phone was in his coat pocket, which was downstairs with us at the hotel we were
So
at,
that's
right? So
important because just
yeah, he
little
didn't
things
even
that
have
they
his
would've-
phone.
They would have never gave it back to him.
No, thank
They would've-
goodness.
they would've
You
kept
know,
that
little
phone
miracles,
forever.
and you know, I blame myself a lot that night for Dana being arrested. Right, I totally felt like it was my fault
It was never
because
your
the
fault.
volunteer offered to me. I was working the table, right, and he offered to me to go out to the van and get more of these little gift packs we were giving away, right? And I hummed and I hawed and I hummed and I hawed, and I just finally said, okay, because he's like, you can trust me, I'm a good guy. You know, he just went on and on with me. So I said, okay. So I said, it's the red van outside right there, right? And so he goes out, and that's where, you know, the shakedown all took place out in the parking lot, right? So they arrested him, and then, of course, Dana
Because they
went
knew it
out
was
there.
someone, yeah. And
He
if you
was-
would have been you would have been like, no.
It would have been me, probably, yeah. If I would have been the one, but I was all alone and I couldn't have left the table, like with the books and the cash and everything, right? So
Were they nice to him at all?
Yes, and he was also a medical user patient, and he's had shatter on him, and they gave it back to him. And so that was interesting. Yeah, they took all our medicine though, and we know that they drove our rental van, away from the hotel. The impound was only 2 blocks away. They did not get a tow truck. So I told Kirk that too.
Interesting.
Very interesting, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know if that's going to be brought up in court. Like we go back to court on the 18th in Calgary. So
I was arrested in Edmonton in 2012 on the Freedom Tour. And it was on a previous warrant from 2008 when I was arrested in Tabor on a sting from their top undercover marijuana cop in Alberta there. It was hilarious. And I didn't think that those charges had stuck around. I thought they had dropped them, but they didn't. So now I'm in 2012, and they're arresting me on these failures to appear and the rest of it. But the Edmonton police were so awesome to me. The officers that arrested me knew about LEAP. They knew about my tour and what my past was with the Freedom Tours.
You really did that when you did your Freedom Tours.
and
you
he
know
did it
what?
by
They
himself
they
too,
put the
right?
handcuffs on
You
so
can have that.
loosely, and we chatted all the way to the police station, and it was great. And then there, the supervisor in the lockup, he was really good to me as well. And at one point he said, "Mr. Magnuson, we know the difference here between the real criminals and the hot people." And I said, "Well, thank you for that, you know." And so I educated those people along the way. And when they let me out, I had a bail hearing at like 1:30 in the morning, where they agreed to take whatever money I had. That's what they took, was the amount that I had. That was my bail to get out. And by 2:30 in the morning, I was let out on a
$3?
Friday night in Edmonton.
How much did you have, Neil?
Like,
$450
oh,
bucks.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Yeah, so too
And-
bad you
and-
only had like, you should have had 420.
No, I mean I was on a
That would be
cross
great.
Canada tour for 5 months
I
there,
remember you
and
came
I
to
was
Kelowna.
selling seeds at cheap prices to raise money and try to overgrow the government. And so they
remember.
took the money that I had, and they got me a bail hearing late at night, and they let me out at 2:30 in the morning. But the officer that had processed me for the last 45 minutes to an hour to get me my stuff and to get out, and I had nothing. I mean, they gave me a chef's jacket because it was really cold in Edmonton, and I had no coat. But talked to him all the way up and all the way through. And when he's letting me out, it's in downtown Edmonton. We get up top, and he lights a cigarette, and he looks to me and he says, "You know, Neil," he said, I've been smoking weed all my life." He said, "All my friends smoke weed. And I really wish you luck on what you're trying to do there." And I thanked him, and I told him, you know, "I won't use your name, but I'm going to tell people what you said." And I blogged about it on, you know, as I was doing for the tour. And yeah, I was later told that the Edmonton police maybe have their own grow going on, so they don't have to just rely on what
Yeah?
they seize
Oh,
from
wow.
people, and they can skim off the top. And then if you go to court and you had a pound, well, you're going to end up in court with about a half a pound or something
Yeah,
like
well,
that.
that makes
And,
me like that cop. I remember in Calgary too. Like back to that, right? And I was walking towards the van, and I didn't know where Dana was at that time. I was out there. There was like tons of people because we had like 150 people at that event,
Nice.
if not more. And people were
Right.
outside too that couldn't get in. So, and it was hot in there. Oh, it was so hot in that room. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. And I remember
Dry
thinking,
sift
like,
rosin.
we had all this hash. You know, Dana likes his hash and oil, and we had everything in this little Easter egg container thing. And kept thinking, fuck, I know that cop's going to take it, like, because it's, like, primo BC product, right?
Yeah.
And this cop, he's all, like, just a little skinny little tweed. And I was like, that's my medicine, you know, I said to him, right? And he's like sniveled up his nose at me, and he, you know, he wouldn't talk to me, right? And he's like, "Get away, ma'am, get away, ma'am." So,
I see.
but they were harassing other people there that were trying to, you know, like find out what was going on, and they were, you know, if we would have pushed them a little more, I think they probably would have arrested more people.
Yeah. When I got my vehicle back, I believe they towed it. I never found out if they towed it or drove it themselves. Maybe they did.
They could
But,
have.
you know, I have a license to possess cannabis. It's 2012 now, and this is happening.
Yeah.
And I went to the impound yard to get my vehicle back, and on the way there, the attendant at the yard, he said, "Hey, man, there's a bunch of drugs in your car there. Like, why? Why would they leave them there?" And I said, "Because they're mine, you
You're
know."
lucky.
And I opened the driver's door, and they had it all nicely laid out. You know, there's my extracts and my weed and my seeds and everything all right there, all my stuff. It was a very interesting experience in Edmonton. Very.
Well, and then you carried on your tour and made it all the way to Ottawa, didn't you?
I went coast to coast in 2012.
Yeah.
I went
Wow,
right to
that's
the
amazing, this
tip of
guy,
Cape
right?
Breton Island.
Wow.
That you know, that tour, I had done 3, 2006, 2007, 2008, where I inline skated 1,000 miles each year on the way to going to Ottawa for Remembrance Day, and spent 5 months giving out handouts and meeting the mayors, and went on behalf of LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, as a civilian member, and handing out their information to the police stations along the way. So, and like I say, spending 5 months each year. And then I went again in 2012, where things had changed a little bit. You know, there was more information. So when I put together my packet of information to hand out, there was the letter that was written by the 4 previous attorney generals in British Columbia at the time, where they demanded that the Harper government to end the prohibition. There was a letter written by the Stop the Violence campaign that included 6 of the mayors in British Columbia, including Gregor Robertson. And by the time I got to Ottawa that year, all the municipalities within BC had ratified and agreed with that document, also demanding an end to prohibition. There was the Vienna Declaration, where they spent 2 years consulting with panels of experts around the world on the consequences of drug prohibition, and found that there's no value whatsoever in trying to prohibit drugs. So, I mean, it's a drain on the taxpayers. It undermines the justice system. It increases the demand for whatever the drug that's prohibited is. It exacerbates all the abuse issues to do with that. The prohibition model doesn't work. So that combined with the 2002 Senate report, I took to these police stations. And as it turned out in 2012, I went to every police station that I could find on my journey, coast to coast, and then back to Ottawa for Remembrance Day, and filed these documents with them and demanded that they investigate the federal government, Stephen Harper, as to why he would be continuing prohibition of cannabis 10 years after the Canadian Senate said that the continued prohibition is jeopardizing and harming our communities more than the substance ever could. And yet there we are still doing that. And so I wanted to have Stephen Harper arrested on the Freedom Tour in 2012, but all the jurisdictions that they got to know pretty quickly. I mean, before I was out of British Columbia, they knew I was coming at every police station, and they all had the same story, that it's not within their ability to investigate the federal government, that they deal with local issues. So Stephen Harper wasn't arrested as a result, but he got booted out by the Canadian populace. So, you know, just about as good.
Was that October 19th? And remember, Mark used to say it was legalization day.
It was legalization day. And that's what they did here at the Cannabis
first
Culture
day.
Lounge, is the very next day they started selling weed out of here in the form of joints and dabs and pipe loads and things like that. And now they've opened their own new dispensary on the day on the very day, you know, in keeping with the spirit of activism and how we force things here, on the very day that the city of Vancouver said that the dispensaries had to shut down until they got their license. Cannabis Culture opened a new dispensary just a couple blocks away. We've been talking about it all day here.
I want to probably go there and visit them later. Might
We
as
got
well.
Jeremiah and Joda up there right now, dropping off the new jars to keep that weed nice and fresh.
Good.
Jared should be showing up here anytime.
We're going to have a guest on the show.
We're gonna have a guest. We're gonna
Jeremiah
have a fun
Vandermeer
show.
apparently
You
is
wanna be a guest
going to be in the
for us?
house.
Visitor in your own town.
Visitor in the
Sure,
house.
we got,
Yeah.
so we got Carly in
Carly's in the house.
Carly's in the house.
Yeah.
And we'll have her on the show. We can talk
Yeah.
more about her show that she has on Mondays.
And more guest stars in future weeks,
Yeah,
I'm sure. What?
Dabby time.
Oh,
Oh, yes. So
try that one. So
Fountain's good too.
little dab will do ya. Hey, you know, talk about dabs and the Freedom Tour. The Freedom Tour was sponsored in 2006, 7, and 8 by Butter King.
Oh,
And so Butter King sent me with large amounts of butter to help people experience it. And what do you got going on there, John?
we'll talk.
I want to see this here. I don't know if you can catch that.
Lovely. It looks
This
like
is
butter.
this is not a dab. This is a glob. That's a glob. And back when this whole thing started, it wasn't even called dabs. We didn't know quite what to call it, but it was you could barely see it on the end of a pin, is what it was. And it was Butter King butter. And we would take I would go into these small communities across Canada. They had their own little torch system, where it was a torch lighter with a little flip down metal plate. A plate that you would then just put with a pin. You could barely see it, not anything like that. If I was to hold up what I would give them, you wouldn't see it from here to you folks. And so they'd go, oh, yeah, right, sure.
No, but
What is this?
that's the same.
And then they inhale it, and it expands incredibly in their lungs. They blow out a huge cloud of smoke. They sit right down. If I hadn't gotten sitting originally, and usually I did, and they would always be like, wow,
Well, that's what
wow.
this is probably going to do to me. That's why I'm holding off on it right now.
But you're a
He's
medical
smiling.
user, and you're a
I'm
veteran
medical
user.
and he gave
And
me
if
a
an
couple
average
dabs
person
earlier.
did that, they would
I'm
green
still
out
feeling
probably.
That, but you know what? This is
It's
this
a little
is
big
kinda
for me,
like-
but it definitely looks delicious.
Well, you know what? That's one thing I talk about, and that's one thing that really tated big, huge attention for me, and realizing what the concentrations were for me
Yeah.
and what they used for my pain and stuff. So concentrations and these little dabs and micro dabbing and learning how to dose yourself properly, and those little dabs.
Oh man,
It
so many
really-
people were helped so immensely.
It's-
Like
it's
I'd give them a
just-
little
there's
tiny
so
dab,
much, and now
and they
today,
would their whole
everything is
body would just
distractions.
relax.
And
And
think about that. What we talked about was going on to everything. That's everything today, and it's all solventless or solvent. There's all kinds of different ways and methods of being able to take it. But 90% of the people out there are now taking concentrates for
Oh,
what
yeah.
they're using. Everybody is.
I love dabbing now.
And now lately,
Yeah.
I've been getting up
A
every
lot.
morning with a nice bong toke.
I'm old
Oh,
school.
there's bong. You like bong?
No, I like the joints.
And-
I'm
and-
still
I like
old
joints
school.
too.
And a nice
Joints
bong
are
toke just wakes me
evening.
up now. It's kind of like my 710. Yes, I celebrate
You know,
710 and
with
420
joints,
every day.
It's not the purest way to inhale it for sure, to ingest it. I'm sure there's carbons and things that shouldn't be breathed into the lungs when you do that. But still, there are no consequential problems. There's nothing of any significance to cause regulations of any great degree, other than just to let people know, if they're not smart enough to understand, that if you're inhaling smoke on a regular basis, and if your weed is too dry or it's too swaggy and you're smoking too much of it, that you might get some sort of a nasty cough going on a regular basis
But
that
now we
maybe
have that
hurts
other little
your
thingy
your
over there
throat
for
in some
that.
ways. and,
Bovidas.
you
Yeah,
know,
those-
chronic bronchitis, which probably isn't very nice. But other than that, government regulations on things should make sense. And regulations are designed to address situations where problems have arisen usually through commerce and where people are consuming things that they're purchasing and stuff like that. These regulations, when they make sense, are extremely. We have a guest in the house.
Time for me to
Mr.
go.
Jeremiah.
Yeah, we got
Good to
we
see
got
ya.
Jeremiah.
Holy smokes, coming to his own show.
Here you go.
John, the jig's up. Should we
Hi,
run?
guys.
I love
That
those
side of the table.
glasses.
Should
How's
we
it
run?
going?
It's
We're
going
having
well.
fun.
What's that?
You can sit here.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good.
Trying to strike the balance between education and
I see.
and entertainment.
Oh, am I in your way? Look how bright that looks.
So,
you guys look great today.
Look what's going on here today. So
Good
the best
looking
thing is,
Fantastic.
well, you know what? Yeah, it was kind of nice. I came down to the show, Jared, and
Yo.
we were sitting here talking and we were debating, and the most important part about today was talking about the global marijuana march.
Yeah,
that's
because it's
happening
tomorrow.
Tomorrow already.
Yes,
we wanted
the
to promote that.
GMM.
Still have to
Love
make
the
our
glasses.
signs tonight.
Were you driving? Jody driving?
Jody was driving. They don't let me drive.
No, I don't think it was.
No. I
Not with those
I'm a
glasses, they
long-time
don't.
Driver. I've been driving since I was 15, but yeah,
he has
I
a
know.
nice BMW, isn't it?
I do have a nice car. Yeah.
He's a driving
Well, but
force
it's
here.
parked in my basement though. Never gets any use, so I've had it for years, but it barely ever gets
It's a
driven.
nice car.
It should be sold.
So how was
Anyways,
your
there's
adventure?
no need
Please
to
tell us
drive in
more. What's
Vancouver.
going on?
The adventure was good. We got a lot of what we're doing is we're setting up the new dispensaries. We got tons of work to get through. It's just insane. But we're really designing the aesthetics of the dispensary, and it's going to be consistent amongst all of our dispensaries. So we did some hard work really figuring out which jars we want to get for the dispensaries. That's something actually pretty important. So we finally figured out the ones we want. These I need right away. These packs, actually. I talked to the guys in the store. We want these right away.
We've been talking quite a bit about it.
You guys have already talked about these?
Yeah, we have, yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, can I buy some of these off you? Toot sweet, like right away.
Commerce.
Yep. And so we're talking about 512 BD Street. You can go over there and check out
Here's
the
a
new
10
digs,
pack
the
to
new
get you
setup.
going.
I am
The
going to go
jars
over
are
there.
beautiful,
Pretty
too.
cool.
They're very nice apothecary jars. And cool,
They
man.
give them to me.
I'm
I'm
going to
not.
need more than this, though.
Yeah, I know. That's what I have on me. I'll
And soon they're going to be apothecary jars full of weed.
They already are.
I hear you got some good weed down there.
We do have some very nice pot there, and we'll have more. We can't buy it fast enough. It's leaving too soon. And if you go down there and you tell them that you heard me say this, you can get a free joint with every $25 or more purchase.
Wow, you heard it here,
Wow.
folks.
I'm going there for sure.
Right from Jared's
And the Global Marijuana March
Joints.
tomorrow.
GMN tomorrow. We're
Noon
meeting
at the Art Gallery. We're going
That's
to
right.
start meeting there.
May 7th at the Art Gallery. We're going to bust our asses through the streets, all the way across the bridge over to City Hall, and then that's where we're going to have some fun. But yeah,
Party in the park.
there's all
a nice
kinds
park.
of stuff going on. There's some people who wanted to go one route. There's other people who wanted to go another route. I think what we really do want to do, though, is take the shortest possible route.
Yep.
And not
Because
go
it's already
walking all
longer than
over.
normal.
I know, it's
No,
already
here's
longer.
a lot
And
of
there's
people-
some hills
It's
involved.
hard for
This-
people. There's people
and
that
the-
have medical
The
issues
Yep.
and
marijuana
stuff. And
march
Exactly.
has always been about patients. I've been
Right.
involved with it
Yeah.
every year.
And we're already
It's
asking
not
them
just
to go
about patients,
further.
But we're marching for these clubs for rights to be able to continue to be able to.
Yeah, we got some
Supply
protesting this
patients.
time to do.
We do. We have
Yeah.
a
Gotta get out
real
there.
purpose. Like,
We got all these
things are
posters
happening now.
sitting here, and I was
Carrie
saying,
Jang.
These posters got to be spread up Commercial Drive, Main Street, and Davie, because those are where a lot of
Malmo Levine is the poster guy this time around. He's been putting them up all over single-handedly. I have photos of him with his little brush.
Apparently the
with
city's been
glue.
taking them down as he puts them up. So. Yeah, there's some posters being ripped down, I've been told.
Who's been ripping them down?
Well,
We
I
have-
can do some
I
tonight.
assume the city, because they do that, right?
They rip them down?
Nighttime, we can go out tonight and do them.
Well,
I
those guys
guess.
are- If anybody's ripping them down, they're not very nice.
Yeah, whatever you can do out there to promote the march for tomorrow, wherever you are. If there's no march in your city, get a sign and go stand on a street corner and then walk to the next street corner, and you're the march.
Yes. Yeah,
Whatever
join our
you can
march
do.
all the way along.
But tomorrow is the day that globally, around the world, hundreds of countries, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, maybe millions of people getting out and saying we want freedom and human rights respected with respect to access to this plant.
Some people are like, what is the Global Marijuana March? I don't know this one. I know 420, but the GMM has been around for a long time. Started in New York by Dana
Nine.
Beal and some yippie activists there.
Yeah.
And they called it the Million Marijuana March at the
Originally,
time.
yeah.
J-Day.
And that kind of spread around the world to over 300 different cities in, I think, 80 countries or something.
Ah.
And you can find this stuff online. There's a GMM website. If you just type in Global Marijuana March into Google, you'll get some of the legacy websites that show all of the different countries and cities that have been part of the rally over the years. It's pretty well maintained over the years. Not so much anymore because 420 has kind of, I think, eclipsed the Global Marijuana March in a lot of ways.
Well, here in Vancouver, it has for sure.
And it comes so soon on the heels of 420 that people think they've already gone out and done their thing. But the cool thing about the march is it's a real protest action. It's a mobilization of activists in the streets, shutting down traffic. It's actually the most fun of all of them. in my opinion.
Smoking weed in the
Fun.
streets, man.
And
I
we
would
have
be
our
here.
like megaphones and we're
Yeah.
yelling at people and stuff. It's fun. I love it.
Me too.
It's the most active of all of our activism. So.
Yeah, and we try to have very positive interactions with the people that we're inconveniencing or that are watching from the sides and stuff. And
Exactly.
it's a
And
great
we
thing.
get a lot of those people. That's the best. Seeing the
Yeah.
looks on the people's faces as you pass by. They're like, what's that?
And having many of them
Sniffing
join
and-
us as we go and getting
Yeah.
in bigger
Or
numbers and
smoking
things.
They're
while
either
you're
like,
"We're here."
driving with the bike cops.
Get used to it.
Exactly.
That's what we're here. We're high. Get used to it.
I remember
And we're going over a bridge.
Funny, funny.
I'm hoping for unity tomorrow. I'm hoping that everybody
Unity.
Agreed.
That's
part
gonna
of the
be
march
a
together,
big
that we
You know
don't
what?
split
thing.
up. Like I was saying on the phone, it's not going to be much of a march if we each walk on a different street.
Yeah.
That's just a bunch of people walking to City Hall.
Well, didn't something happen like that in Toronto?
That'd be cool, though,
Was
in
that
some
last
way to have
year?
a-
They all split.
People on every street with
That was
signs.
Toronto,
Just
yeah.
Yeah.
They're closed on Saturday? No.
Yeah.
They're
they
closed.
It's closed on Saturday, but that doesn't matter.
we're going to make the point.
Yeah. We're going to go on the grass, have fun. Since they're not using it for Saturday, we can go use it, and have our barbecue on their lawn.
Yeah. We're gonna sell weed.
Barbecue on
And
the
there'll be
lawn
weed
at
for
City
sale
Hall.
there. As always, we'll have weed
Now
vending
that
going
that
on.
has been
Oh, yeah?
actually
That'd
on.
be
So-
Our numbers just
there.
went up on the Google.
Since
We're calling it. We want to
Jeremiah
fight fire with fire. We're not just the fires that are going on. There's a
Fight
concept
power
that we're
with
working
reason.
on.
Fight power with reason.
Well, all of these things, but
Yeah.
I mean, weed. The weed itself is the fire. I think that
Yeah, man.
when we
Smoke.
go and we smoke pot in front of the city hall, that itself is a protest action. And there's this Carrie Jang guy who is the city councilor who's against marijuana. He's the one who's been leading up the charge of the city's ramping up of shutting them down, talking tough about them, giving out these tickets, all of that kind of stuff. They've closed 22 of them in the city already because of this guy and the mayor.
Is it 22 right now?
22 have already closed.
I went by THC. They were closed today.
A lot of them. I think
What
probably
is the
more than
reason,
22 have
though?
closed.
What-
Look at the
like-
Green Wheel on Seymour, it was closed today.
What is the reason that they're like
The people closing?
They are just
They don't want to pay. They're
fear-based?
scared. They don't want to pay the
Yeah.
fines. Johnny, is that what do you have a debit machine over here?
Yeah, we're charging admission now to the
Wow.
show.
That's interesting. So bring that with you.
So
But yeah,
then-
Kerry Jang, he's talking tough, he's saying this stuff. And then when we had our
Talking like a
protest outside
moron.
of City Hall the other day on the drop dead date, which was April 29th, we all gathered outside of City Hall. Somebody from the guys from World Cannabis, I guess, made a phone call to Kerry Jang, and they did it outside, and apparently there's something written on World Cannabis about this that explains what the phone call was. They just said, Kerry, we really are upset with what's happening. We think it's unfair. But they weren't harassing. They weren't like, Kerry Jang went to the press and said he was being targeted, and these people, he was using his clinical sense, and he could tell these people were deranged. And now he has a security team following him around to protect his family. That's what Kerry Jang is saying in the press. That's all being paid for by our taxpayer dollars. And there's Kerry Jang. He's out in the lounge smoking.
I called him a
at the
couple
dab bar.
times, and I left messages, and I was somewhat harassing.
But you shouldn't be harassing.
Well, I was telling him that we're upset with how he's not doing his job here, and that he should come and talk to people, and he should find statistics that justify his position,
that's not-
and he
did
should
you
have to
threaten his
clarify
life,
his
Neil?
position.
Did you
No, I
threaten-
didn't threaten his life. I
Well,
would never do that. I have a
Right, exactly. So I have a feeling that there's some hyperbole here. I have a feeling he's probably over-exaggerating.
I think
a
he
little
doesn't
bit.
want to talk to us. I
He
think
doesn't want to talk to us because
Yeah.
he knows he's
He was supposed to return or call me when I filed my formal complaint with them. The city told me that I could expect a call from him sometime in the next day, and hasn't called me since. So I called him. I've left 3 messages on his machine,
He's Dr.
quite detailed.
Dr. Kerry Jang.
Dr.
He's-
Kerry Jang, asking
he's
him to
an
justify
addiction
his
specialist.
position. How do you justify having much harsher regulations for medical cannabis dispensaries than those for the recreational alcohol dispensaries? I want him to explain that to me.
There is no explanation, and that's why
Of course
this
there
guy
isn't.
has nothing good to say about it.
And that's why he doesn't want to talk to us.
Unfortunately,
Any
when people
moron
have
would
the
know that you
chance
don't
of interviewing
regulate that
him-
one worse than that one.
Like there's like David Brown from Lyft had the chance to interview Kerry Jang in a recent Lyft article, but it was a softball interview. He didn't really ask him any hard questions at all, and that's the problem. Is nobody's asking Kerry Jang the real questions.
When they
Why
have
are
the
you harming
opportunity.
patients?
Yeah.
Why are you shutting down dispensaries that don't cause any harm and have shown to not cause any harm?
And putting people out of
directly
work.
Harming patients and putting people out of work. There's
Yeah.
nobody who's even asked this question once.
I know.
So-
Not the
and it's-
media. We're all asking it.
No, but it's up to the guys like
But,
Lyft to be asking that, but they're not
Yes.
either. So
It's
it's kinda,
crazy.
it makes me sad, unfortunately.
makes me sad,
I
too.
wish that we had the same access to Kerry. He doesn't answer our calls though.
We can still go to City Hall at any time and try to talk to him, and you can leave messages for him, and you can call 311 in Vancouver
Yeah.
if you live here. You can go online if you're outside of Vancouver and get their contact information and complain about what they're
Jody-
doing here.
Complaint,
Jody
that's all
recently-
I can do.
The whole world is looking at Vancouver to how we're going to regulate things and hoping that we're going to lead the way with reasonable regulations driven by the activists who have actually caused this all to happen. But instead, it's the opposite. And so wherever you live in Canada or anywhere, you should be contacting the City Hall in Vancouver and complaining about what they're doing here, because you don't want your jurisdiction to be implementing regulations like these ones, these 7 or 8 ridiculous bans that they've put on these places that make absolutely no sense, and especially compared to any recreational alcohol model. So, get a hold of your City Hall and make those complaints, and that's how things happen. That's how you do it.
Absolutely. You
Ask
have-
for him personally.
You have to, and
He won't talk
cite
to
the
you.
Victoria model or anything at this point.
Well, at
like
least Victoria is allowing for edibles.
Correct, but they
there
also
were
have-
similar
And
other
in
things with.
Victoria, it's only 200 meters away from a school or another dispensary.
Well,
Well,
and
they're not
that's
dealing
still
with
unreasonable
over
in my
100
opinion. You
It's
see?
or
unreasonable.
80 even though.
It's unreasonable.
But at least it's closer to the liquor
There's-
store.
It's
one.
better than Vancouver.
And
Yeah.
they're dealing with less amount of dispensaries, even though there is 30 or 40 in Victoria, I'm guessing, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
was it
But-
Kimberly that?
It's not in the hundreds.
Really?
In Victoria, no.
How
No, not yet.
They have a regulator.
Well, they got lots
But,
there.
But it should be. Yeah, it's exploding everywhere though. These dispensaries
I mean-
aren't
Well, let's hope
stopping.
so.
When
Who's going to start venturing into these other
I think I know who might.
Yeah.
I hope that I know who might.
Well, I think
We,
I know. you.
You know-
if it's up to me, I would love cannabis culture to go to all of the different,
All the
like
major
everywhere.
cities need
I want,
major dispensaries.
I want.
and
us
I would like to
open
see
more
them
protest dispensaries
violate all of
immediately.
these stupid
And
regulations.
They can gather where they can consume or purchase or
Well, next week, I wasn't planning on doing a show this week, but when I wrote a thing online today, I said that we'll be broadcasting from a special location next week.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want to give too much away, but there's an interesting place that we'll be broadcasting from next week, and I think people might be a little bit excited about what we're doing.
I can't wait to go there.
Tune in
In
for
the
that one.
province?
Tune in for
It's
that.
in the province.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not too far from here, not
Oh,
too far
okay.
from the city of Vancouver,
Oh,
but it's
okay.
not in the city of Vancouver, though.
I
It's
got
not
Cool.
the city of Vancouver.
It's outside of the city of Vancouver.
Okay.
outside.
Well, that is exciting, though.
Yeah, so
if it was
there's
Surrey,
lots
it'd be
coming.
really exciting.
Have a nice view of a nice restaurant across the street.
Well, I'm not saying too much, but we'll be there next week, so everybody will find out.
Okay, can't
and
wait.
As the weeks progress, even in this very month, there's a lot of exciting news that's going to be announced, and not just here in the province of British Columbia
Get
either.
till
So,
I got a ticket for
yeah, we've got a lot going on around here
are
right
you
now.
moving?
That's why I'm so goddamn busy.
I know that's why I get in here and
Yeah.
talk to people.
I'm glad that you guys did the show today. What a
Hey,
great
it was
thing.
important.
Yeah, no, it's
You know what?
good. It was
You know,
funny.
we got to get in here. We got to talk. You can get in here and actually, host your own.
No, it's all right. It's all good, man. You're doing a good job.
Hey,
I'm in the hot seat today.
You're busy. You're running around.
Yeah, and I actually do have to honestly
Hire
do
some
some more work right now.
Hire some
I got to go buy some weed, man. Honestly, the part of the issue with this whole dispensary thing is that we're selling a lot of weed already, and we really need to buy more all the time. And so a big part of it is constantly having weed in stock. And what we're doing is we're setting up a model where that's easier for us. So yeah, we're working on it. We just have so much to do all at once that bear with us, folks, and it's going to be dope when we're done.
There you go.
Yeah.
Coming from Jer.
That's great.
Live from his show.
Congratulations. I want to
Yeah,
go
thank
visit
you.
there before
It's-
I leave.
We're gonna
for
get Carly
sure.
Varley up here.
A lot of hard work has gone into this whole thing,
So
and
we
I
can get
think
you up
that
here now.
we're going to start to, and part of this is the protest, like we've been planning on this for a long time. We've wanted to do this for a long time, but the time wasn't perfect, and now we really see that we need to be there doing this and pushing forward. When the Edens and other places are closing down, we want to be there opening up. We want to be there pushing forward and not backing down from these people.
Excellent.
It's important
That's
that
great.
we've been in here in the front lines. We've been doing this the whole time. We were the first stores we were in there. Mark was,
It's like what Mark did with seeds. We want to do
Yeah.
the same thing with weed.
Well, you know what?
Me too.
Yeah.
I want to be.
Freedom for
I wanna
everybody,
be-
man. It's so important that we get access, and what you guys are doing, what you're standing up for, is exactly what we're all about. So it's good
Yep.
to see that.
No, well, if they think
happy.
we're going to go away after 90 years of prohibition and the threat of being arrested, now that they're going to legalize, now we're going to go away?
No.
Like, are they insane?
No. It's
Yeah,
our
right.
time.
Yeah,
It's
you're
finally
right.
our time.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere.
There you go.
We'll be right here
Excellent.
every week, Pod TV.
Yay. Thanks for
There you
having
go.
me. It's been so much fun.
Okay, I'll be back. I got to go do some stuff. Thanks, Pod TV. Love you guys.
Okay.
So
See you
there
tomorrow at the
Yes,
rally.
Global Marijuana March, Art Gallery.
So that was nice. We got Jared stopped by. As you can see, he's crazy busy. He's got so much going on. He's buying jars, buying weed, and as you can hear, there's another location opening up here in BC. More to come, as you can hear from coming other places. So there's a lot happening with this industry and what's going on with the platform of legalization and the way the governments are trying to put it on us and the way the people are trying to show the governments what exactly would we like to see happen for patients' rights and for people's rights with this plant.
Yes. Oh, and it's so exciting.
I got
right?
Cindy
Like,
here now, so it's
I'm
just,
here. I'm still here.
It's just me and Cindy, and
Yeah.
we're talking away.
I have
here,
parking
guys.
till 6, so.
Well, there you go. Actually, we got like 75 people watching, so
Oh,
that's
that's
awesome. So
great.
and we didn't even hit button on the show. We just went live.
Oh, well,
It says
so
Pod
that's,
TV
you know.
Live today. That's the name of today's
Oh,
episode.
that-
Pod
well, that's
TV
great.
Live.
Or
and we're
live.
just live today.
Or
having a lot
live,
of fun.
right? Live, live.
it live?
Same word.
Pod TV Live.
It can be the same word, right? That's one of those weird words that vase, vase, like one of those weird words.
my dumb
Tomato, tomato.
Well, you know what, Pod TV? I think it's been a great show.
Me too.
I
Thanks for
really,
having me.
Want to talk more about the Global Marijuana March. I want to talk about what was happening. And as always, guys, get a hold of.
Overgrowcanada.com.
If you
We
want
still
some
got,
seeds, you see we
we
got
got
lots.
more, 1 million, 2 million more to give
So-
away,
so
so
there's
it's never
lots of
too
seeds.
late.
Learn how to grow those, of course. Pay more attention.
Register
to
your
the
aunt or your
process.
uncle, and
There you
we'll
go.
just send them to them in the mail, and they'll be
Yeah, you know
surprised.
what,
Like,
they'll
what the
just
heck,
show
right?
up.
Like,
If
it
you're in
behoves.
Vancouver, any parts of the world, look to where your march is. It is a global marijuana march. This happens all around the world, like Jared was talking about. 32 different countries participate in the march. So It started in New York, so it's
Yeah.
something that we're all very passionate and we love to do. And hey,
We'll see you tomorrow at
see-
12.
We'll see you tomorrow at the Art Gallery. If not, we'll see.
Oh, guess
we'll
who's
see
back?
Carly Marley's show. Neil just popped back here for us for a minute. Don't forget, there's another show
Thanks again for
on
having
Wednesday
me. And
with
I'll
Marijuana Man from.
be watching on.
I think he used to be from under the desk behind the seed bank. Where behind the seed desk? Where is he now? What's Greg's show now? Just.
I don't know.
It'll come to you on Wednesday. And of course, as always, Cannabis Culture News Live. It happens on Friday, and it normally happens with Jeremiah and myself with all of these great guests. Nice to have Jeremiah stop by today and have a little chat on his own show. We'll see you next week at a special location.
Yeah.
What I always say.
Thanks to Weeds, Glass, and Gifts again for.
Thanks for Weeds, Glass, and Gifts. Thanks to Crop King Seeds, of course, Pot TV, Cannabis Culture. Of course, me, Med Tanner, we all get involved.
MJ
You know what?
Creams, that's where I
MJM
work too,
Creams,
yeah.
Vancouver Seed Bank, we see these people. There's so many great people out there.
Mm-hmm.
Have a great, guys.
Bye.
Puff and pass.